Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host Richard Lewis. Joining me as he always does, it's Duncan Thorin Shields, refreshed after having a couple of days holiday. Must be nice. Sam's pressing the buttons, Bane Law, the producer extraordinaire. And we're going to be talking about Counterstrike after 12 days without having talked about Counterstrike. There's one story very much dominating the proceedings that'll probably take up the first hour of the show. So yeah, we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, are you feeling refreshed? You looking forward to today?
Yeah. Just need, every now and then you just need the odd day off.
Yeah, that is.
Is that cop just a new way to get it into the show? Since we're not allowed. Isn't there some mad thing? I know Monty tried to make like some allusion to this. Is it true you're not supposed to say that word anymore if it's going on YouTube?
On YouTube, yeah. It goes.
No
into
one told
like
me this.
Full trigger.
Well,
the AI puts it into a certain category, and that's like
fucking hell. That's a bridge too far.
Yeah. Well, no. Listen, I've said cunt is where I draw the line. Like, I mean, that I like. You can't. I was explaining this when Wales won the Six Nations. I did a stream, and I had a few drinks and that, and I was just saying, like, what a Celt's gonna do. It's like it's our word. It's like it's an Anglo. It's a very old, traditional fucking Celtic word that we passed over in the Anglo-Saxon.
Imagine being Australian as well, mate. Imagine being an Australian YouTuber who can't say can't.
No, well, yeah, I mean, that's before we even get to Aussies. Like,
it's just going to be perma beeps, mate. And also, apparently, beeps also get detected by YouTube. So if you beep a swear word, it says, well, that was a swear word, so I know that was bad. So people, instead of beeping it, just like either edit it out or just like say a word over it.
So you're telling me if someone puts on an old episode of Buck Rogers, it's just instantly flagged straight fire reference there. No one gets it. Sadly, some mad boomers. I know, exactly. It's quite childish in some ways, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Classic Buck Rogers. No one knows who Buck Rogers is.
I know, exactly. It's not like Googling and help him, quite frankly.
No,
it's such an over-the-time example I'm giving.
Dead now, of course. It's not even of your time. That's how much of a mad... It's like... I'm Doppelboomer reference.
That's something a lot of fans wouldn't understand, right? I'm sure fans have heard, 'cause it's a classic thing that like on Joe Rogan's podcast, they've said a million times. Everyone knows the premise, right? That yes, people from our generation typically grew up with like limited TV channels and, you watch it. But there's like an extra level I realize they don't actually know as well, Rich, which is also all hours of the day weren't considered like quality programming hours. As in, you only put the really good shit, like, 8 p.m. on like your fucking Monday or whatever. Yeah, but what people won't realize as a result is the reason our generation is also utterly fucked for references is because, for example, if we were just off school on like a Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. or something, then we're also now probably watching a movie from 1960 and it's the 80s. So at that point in time, like your reference point is just completely off. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why I often reference like old boomer shit from comics, because I didn't have the new comics. I had the ones that were handed down to me by some cunt 20 years earlier. So yeah, I'm a man out of time, mate.
Yeah, well, I'm the same. First set of American comics I got them all from a car boot sale, which people.
Those were the classic place to go from. Yeah, there was no comic shops back then. Yeah,
and like people would just sell big bundles of like because the
you
American
buy a whole
comics,
box, don't you?
Yeah, the American comics were like a different size to the UK ones. So like these were tiny. 2000 AD was big like this.
Way bigger than that. Yeah,
and the American comics were like this. So they always stood out. So I always used to you'd get like 100 comics for £1 or something, just like no order, all jumbled up, probably additional stock from some specialist news agent that's been thrown out. That's how I got my first American comics. That's how I learned about, those stupid ads for like X-ray specs. And
thing is, though, that's another example, because obviously, that was just some rip-off shit. When you were a kid in Britain, you were like, holy fuck, they're selling X-ray specs and everything. Like,
I know.
Looked like this shit, mate. Looked awesome. Yeah. Fake fingers and that, everything.
Yeah. More Robin. But anyway, with that said, why don't we plug the sponsors? Shout out obviously to NordVPN, our VPN sponsor. You get 70% off. Go to nordvpn.com/RLS. Check that out. And of course, our long-standing betting sponsor, .com. Go to .com/RLS. Sign up there. It's a safe, ethical environment. You can place bets on esports events, becoming more and more relevant, I would say, as time goes on. I got absolutely cleaned out the other day in the UFC. Don't want to talk about it. I lost a fuck ton. Didn't call a single fight right, actually.
There's some hard ones in there to pick, though, to be fair.
Yeah, well, I was sort of following, which I bet on, but steep is where I lost big. I thought he would do it.
Makes sense, mate. That could have gone the other way completely.
Yeah,
thought
but
he
I
would win
mean,
that fight personally.
fair play, like, you know, like
it was a sick ending.
hell of a fight, and you know, I'm super happy for the fella because if you know about Francis's
he has
life,
a mad backstory.
Oh, mate, like, you know,
look up if you haven't watched it, watch the Joe Rogan episode.
It's insane. It's insane. So anyway, let's get into the show. Let's start with the big one, big story. Cloud9. It's over. The Colossus is dead. It has been toppled. It has been eviscerated. It has had sand kicked in its face by its owners, rather than just the fans, which no doubt we'll talk about. After failing to get through the ESL Pro League group stage, it was announced very shortly after that they would be discontinuing the team. Then it was later announced by Rush B Media that it was only temporary, which we'll talk about in a second. I mean, I don't buy that for a fucking second. And so basically, you know, a lot of people, I guess we have short memories in this business, were kind of like, well, they had a fair shake of it. And it's like their first event together with this lineup was December. And keep in mind that because of the ongoing global pandemic, they never even got to the boot camp stage. They never even met each other in person. I think it's the first time in esports where I think a team has been created, terminated without the teammates actually at some point all being in a room together.
Maybe 100 Thieves, the original one, gets credit for that one, the one they never played a match. But they must have been in a room at the same time. But yeah, that might be the only other one.
So we'll get into some of the little talking points around it because it is the big story of the week. But let's just start with the overall assessment of this move. Now, while I understand that because of the expectations that were set at the beginning and the sort of meme of the Colossus and everything, people probably felt a little bit aggrieved. They'd had some rough finishes. They hadn't even managed to bring home one of those online cups. But as I said, online CS against Russians and it's just weird.
There's a lot of top teams could lose those cups.
Yeah, exactly.
I tell you right now.
A lot of top teams did, and nobody said anything about those.
No, but I mean, mate, you put Astralis in one of those, I bet you they won't win.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you any money.
Yeah, for real. Like, I mean, not to mention, I mean, because people have different gears that they go through, and you know, if you're, you know, the purpose for entering those cups for Cloud9 is just to get table time, just to play it together. That was all it really was. So they had to try stuff out. You know, it wasn't about bringing home the trophy, but obviously when you're in that position, you can't really win because if you lose, everyone goes, look, you've just lost to Voivoda, lol, losing to Bulgarians, lol, you've just lost to Windstrike. And it's like, you know, no one's going to take any context into it. But, you know, I'll get your thoughts here. I mean, for me, I just think that you've spent all this money. You've spent all this money on signing on fees. You spent all this money on buyouts in some cases. You've spent all this money bringing Henry into the org. And then, you know, we're essentially not, you know, 6 months if you really want to start. Because, like, Henry and Xad joined in September. That was before they had anyone on the roster. So I don't know if that really counts, but that's when it technically started. You know, but like I said, this lineup, first event in December, and here we are back end of March, and it's over. For me, I think Cloud9 have pulled the gun a little bit premature, but we'll get into the financials and the particulars and what this means for Counterstrike in a broader context. But what are your thoughts? I mean, this to me does feel like you've got to give them, you know, because they've made forward progress. You have to give them another event. Maybe, you know, probably. If it was my decision, I probably would.
I think this is stupid as fuck. Like, I actually can't think of a worse time in the history of this project to cut all ties and essentially just bury the project with some vague allusion to the idea that you might return one day if there's lands or something. Like, that just means fuck all, by the way. If you're Cloud9, if you're Envy, you're out of the game now. Fuck off. Don't pretend that you're somehow still in the game while having left entirely because one day you could buy back. No, you haven't.
Yeah.
So you haven't done that. So fuck right off. As you have done, we don't need to hear from you anymore. You don't care about Counter-Strike, you don't believe in it, or you are incompetent at it. Because here's the problem I have with this, right, is the whole reason why normally people would follow sunken cost fallacy is actually an example like this, which isn't a fallacy. And the reason it isn't a fallacy is this, right? If you're going to build a team purely from 5 disparate parts, as they originally did in Cloud9, odds that it's immediately very good are incredibly low. Incredibly low. Even FaZe Clan wasn't built that way. Even FaZe Clan was added piece by piece until it got good, and they removed the right pieces, removed the wrong pieces, and put in the right pieces. That's how it gradually got good. It wasn't just built and then tomorrow it was the next best team. So here's the problem. Normally, the reason why owners, and I can tell you from the Flashpoint owners, don't want to buy pieces separately is they know you need some mad genius behind the scenes, like a Cassard maybe, to put those pieces together and make them even what you hope they will be. So if you're not buying a proven roster, you're already taking a massive gamble. So why the fuck would you take the gamble, stress test it over 4 or 5 months, even take out the better players on paper but who aren't performing, and then end up with a squad where the core of it is legitimately one of the best cores in Europe right now? That is inarguable. The actual base level of Cloud9, in my opinion, Alex, Nezzy, and Esitag, to some degree, actually formed a team. The others had their issues, the young players, because they aren't superstar players. That's not even reasonable to expect them. But that basic core could match up with any team in Counterstrike, and did. Literally, the best teams in the world the next week would play Cloud9 and go right to the motherfucking limit. Even though, yes, most of the time they would win and Cloud9 would be the loser. And as I said, at the end of the day, there are no moral victories. But if you do it that many times in a row, it does tell you something about the team. What it tells you, in my opinion, is this. One, I think Alex did a fucking fantastic job when you look at what he had to work with. Nobody else who's a world-class leader, by the way, has taken these scraps, having Zepper and Floppy as their stars and going head-to-head with all the best teams in the world. Secondly, like I said, there was a core element to that team that just worked. It could play Counter-Strike. The problem they had was no fucking star players. Now, that's why I say it isn't sunken cost fallacy. What you actually had there, Cloud9, was a team that was probably one real piece from being actually very good at Counter-Strike. So the idea you'd put all that money in, all that time, all this bravado, marketing, it's supposed to be part of the... By the way, just the idea you would buy out of Counter-Strike while you're a main person in Flashpoint is a fucking joke, but we'll get to that. So the idea you wouldn't then spend for one of the players, and what's that? This is the era when players are literally just free, just sat out there, motherfuckers like fucking Sonny just available, just Automatic was available, like all these players available, like the incompetence for me is at the end of the project. It wasn't any of the stuff at the beginning. I agree, maybe there was a misstep on some of the things there, maybe players didn't go the way you wanted to, but it's the way they dealt with it at the end. It's like, to me, why ever buy in if you were going to do this? Like, here's the one question I would have to Cloud9. So if Woxy could just fragged how you expect him to, and Cassard did a good job, would you still shut the project down? Exactly. Of course you wouldn't. This is like, the whole messaging around this is so fugazi, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I think, you know, look, what I've heard behind the scenes in general is that there's a big problem in terms of North American sponsorship. You know, for a lot of these orgs, I mean, it's going to filter into Europe as well. So be prepared. And basically now sponsors, because of that, because of the ongoing stuff with the marketing budgets relating to the pandemic. What we've ended up essentially doing is, you know, people are being a bit more discerning about where that money goes, and because you can see a return from sponsoring, say, influencers over esports teams, or which, by the way, because these North American owners, who were their own worst enemies, have like jacked up the fucking price of salaries and everything else, and then agents come in and then jack it up again based on the nominal amount that was set by the NA owners who only understand throwing money at stuff to win. You know, they don't know. Like, I don't know why so many of them claim that their like favorite movie is like Moneyball or whatever, because the whole point of Moneyball is you save money. Moneyball wasn't Brad Pitt comes in and fucking slings his big, you know, fucking dollar dick around. You know, it's about being economical. No one does that in esports, so I don't know what the fuck you're all talking about. But anyway, so I think, like, much to your point, I think if they had high-profile players and had maybe got across the line and had like a slightly stronger finish at some of these other tournaments, I don't think they necessarily cut this team. But I will say, as one thing I didn't want to be right about, but I am absolutely right about, is this is a major domino that has fallen in the Counter-Strike ecosystem. There's no two ways about it. And I don't think Cloud9 are coming back. And I think it's something to say to kind of ease the blow. And I guess never say never. But the bottom line is, I know from talking to owners right now, if you want to get money specifically to sponsor a CS team in North America, you are shit out of luck. You are shit out of luck. It's not happening. And so as a result of that, you know, Cloud9, the most supported North American org for CS by some distance, There's a real big drop off by the time you get to Team Liquid, who are obviously a big org. I think this is the optics of this, because as we've talked about in previous podcasts, the optics of this are terrible, because this is an industry of followers, not leaders. And because Cloud9 are considered to be an organization that is proactive and informed and knows what they're doing, the optics of them walking away from Counterstrike after not even 6 months ago saying Counterstrike's in our DNA and it always will be, the optics of that are absolutely terrible for the game. And unfortunately, this is the terminal decline that I was talking about. It's happening. I mean, CSGo's going to exist. But Valve show no interest in supporting it. They won't incentivize the North American orgs to have a team by offering revenue streams. Why aren't there cosmetic items in this game? That a percentage goes to the orgs. Why are you only doing it for the majors? Why is there not permanent stuff in there?
I've got a good one for you, Richard.
And there's zero interest in creating these parts of the ecosystem that need to exist, because Valve don't even rate. They still don't really understand what team, what orgs do, what MGOs do. So unfortunately, Cloud9 go in.
You remember all these fucking people who were just waiting for Flashpoint to die? Because you know what they said would happen when Flashpoint died, Richard? Is that all the Flashpoint orgs would just come scraping to ESL and they'd just join ESL Pro League, and it'd be better for everyone. It'd be better not to have that $1 million prize money in it. What's that, Richard? They've just left the game entirely. Yep. So basically their premise was the game's dying, the ship's going down, we need a life raft. Now, yes, they didn't end up agreeing with how to steer the life raft, and it fucked up. So what was the solution? They're just gone, mate. They're never coming back. So every little dickhead fan out there, including the kind of twat who brought this news forwards, who was almost cheering on the death of Flashpoint. You basically were just cheering on the death of the game, you stupid motherfucker. So you either never cared about the game or you never knew anything about this industry. And one last detail I'll just throw in there is the one area I do actually have mildly hard feelings toward Cloud9. I don't. It's their money at the end of the day. They wasted how they wanted to. And this project wasn't like a total nonsense. To me, I just assumed when you bought these players in, you're at least willing to spend for one good replacement. You don't just buy a squad like this, then just toss it in the bin when it doesn't work. So I never thought that was the problem. I thought even if Woxic doesn't work out, fine, then you get the next good, maybe then you bring in Guardian and fucking Bobski or something, whatever it might be. There was an angle. The one problem I have is this. I've told this story before, and knowing this story is what pisses me off about the Cloud9 scenario. If their only options were buy Astralis or gamble on this team, those are two fine options. You can go either way. I'm sure one costs more. Who knows in the end, but let's just say it does. So one's I'm going with shrewdness, one's I'm going with the guaranteed thing that's going to cost mega bucks. As people might know, there was a third option, and the third option was NiKo's super team, which was going to be him, fucking Cold Zero, Nexa, Hunter, and a fifth player, which would probably have been an Orca. Could have been a Cirque, could have been a Kenny S, could have been whoever was out there who was willing to be this Orca. Now, the problem is, Cloud9's one of the teams I tried bringing this team to, and the sentiment was, we don't want to build a team piece by piece. And then he just went again and did that with the worst team. So that's the only thing that burdens me. It's the fact that it's look, if you just weren't in the market for separate players, that's one thing. I basically offered you, on a platter, almost the best you could ever hope for right now in terms of the players themselves. Here's the other crazy part. You'll see it in upcoming content when Kassad reveals this that I did with him. Basically, by the way, those players even straight up just knew they could all get released from their contracts. So sort of had buyouts. And the players themselves were doing the fucking legwork. You know how rare that is to ever have that happen. That's almost like the players saying, we really just want to get out of this organ into yours. You're just never going to get that in Counterstrike. So in my opinion, the idea they skipped on that was the blow for me. I can't handle. That just showed me I don't think they were that serious.
Well, I'll just also add, look, the whole stuff surrounding the money, that's actually boiled my piss because of how the community have received it.
Oh, they've made it all negative, haven't they?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the $20 million meme. I have seen people unironically quoting that number now. I literally saw. I made a video before they got dropped for Deserto and put it out there and basically said I think they might get dropped, and I think the fans have to look at themselves for that reaction being a reality. And somebody literally replied, well, when you spend $20 million, no one spent $20 million, you daft cunt. It was a fucking meme the whole time. You're so invested in your team, you're not even looking at the particulars. So then on top of that, when you buy a team, first of all, you're always going to start further up because they're already established. So they already have a baseline that they're operating at, right? So it's good. It's good from a talent point of view. When this roster was sort of thrown together, I think Cloud9 was ranked at 125th in the world or something, right? So then, on top of that, you're always going to pay more money because you're buying disparate parts. You haven't to haggle with teams. You haven't to haggle with agents. You haven't to haggle with individual players that might have multiple offers on the table, and then you have to bring them all together. And so generally what a lot of these orgs will do is they won't talk about the money because what the dirty secret in esports is, especially since agents have come in the game, these salaries get pushed up beyond any form of recognition for value. In Counterstrike, the return of investment hasn't been great. Now, I'll tell you that I'm pretty confident I could run a CS team and run it relatively successfully, and that a lot of these people are just, idiots and not good at their job. But I'll also add, there's some of these salaries I wouldn't pay. I wouldn't pay some of the salaries. If you knew what players like JKS were getting and stuff like that, it would blow your mind. But you don't know that because people don't talk about that. And people don't talk about that because if you knew, you might be a little bit inclined to be a bit negative towards the organizations and to these players.
Especially the ones who are like the boomer players who aren't that good anymore but get the massive salaries. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You know, when people always say, oh, be kind to him, he's a legend. It's like, motherfucker, he makes twice as much as a player that we're better, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And so when Henry came in as GM, the first thing he said he wanted to do, and all the players who signed for the org had to be okay with this, was basically like salaries and contract details are going to be public, like in real sports, like it is in the NFL or whatever, like it is in the NBA, so everybody knows the baseline of what we're paying. And so basically what's happened now is that's been used permanently as a brickbat, which they've just used to attack. I mean, bizarrely, they've focused on Henry as if by the way, it's all him doing this. Like, he exists within a market. That's what the market looks like. If you think Esatag is overpaid, you need to talk to Astralis, you need to, you know what I mean? You need to talk to Liquid, you need to talk to EG, you need to talk to all these organizations in the space, all the big names, so that's problem number one. Problem number two, when he did pay more than he had to, like for someone like Mezzi, who was completely unproven and would have took a contract of any kind, but they gave him a fair one that was all in line with the rest of the players, even though he was the lowest owner. People are now saying, why would you pay that for Mezzi? Now, the mad thing about the fan reaction here is the hate and vitriol that the organization has got for trying to change how things are done in the industry is so mentally disproportionate to orgs that have done harmful things. I think, all you have to do, by the way, is compare how much fuckery Astralis have been up to in the last 2 years compared to what Cloud9 have done in 5 to 6 months. And the number of threads on the front page. Like, keep in mind, Astralis went and got 2 players and essentially were willing to tank their careers to use them as leverage to stop their own players getting better deals.
How much do people imagine Yugi got paid from Astralis? He basically, like Richard says, had his career, which already was non-existent, but like the last fumes of it, offered on a fucking altar to a nonsense story for the stock price. And do you imagine he got paid mega for it? Of course he didn't. I bet he got paid absolute peanuts to do that. That's actually pathetic. That's actually harmful to players.
Well, I mean, Bubsky's career's done. It's toast.
Here's a good one. Everyone says this in every single transfer. What about Bubsky? Why not Bubsky? I've heard Bubsky's buyout is like better part of $1 million. Keyword better part, by the way. So that means it's over 500k. So that's what I've heard. So if people are wondering, but this org, they really help him. They don't play him. They lie about not playing him. And then they won't sell him. Because guess what? It was never about playing him, you dumb motherfucker. I even told Bubsky himself to give him a fucking favour. But players cannot be helped, Richard. I told him, brother, the reason I know they're not playing you, mate, is they're trying to get other players and still add them to the team. Who do you think's going to play? You or them? You're just here to be sold. He doesn't get it. He's still no joke. This is not a joke. Still thinks that they're trying to develop him and he's going to one day be a player. It's like, you're just so God, mate, you're like 1 second from the Zonic just going like, now just drink your Kool-Aid there, Bubsky. Don't worry.
The mothership's overhead.
It's a bit acidic, but there you go. All the way it goes down. Yeah, that's right. That's the start. There's my little starter. There you go. You're starting a nuke.
So when I talk about disproportionate response, like I mean, Astralis fans are something else in general. That org's been like absolutely outrageous for so long now, and yet all their fans support them in everything they do. Because you know what it boils down to? Boils down to winning. Meanwhile, HenryG as an org, it stumbles a little bit. They're developing young talent. Let's just also look at some of the mad contradictions that go on. So I've seen multiple threads. Let's laugh at HenryG, laugh at Cloud9 fail thread, just constant on HLTV. There's a Cloud9 or HenryG thread made almost every hour since the team has existed and played matches and that. It's absolutely insane. And it's all negative. And then, okay, let's compare some of the narratives then. Remember the Juggernaut, right? Do you remember how when Jason Lake came out and he said that tweet? Henry's big crime was tweeting, let's build a Colossus and then let's go to Flashpoint and win. Before 3 teams that he lost to 2 of those teams were even confirmed, and they were both the finalists before they were even confirmed to be at that. And also, I think when people thought it might be a LAN, it was that far removed from the event. So Jason came out after losing an event, said, this is unacceptable. Anyone who wants to message me, let's build a Juggernaut, right? Because I won't tolerate failure anymore. There was a debate in the community. Oh, he's hurt their poor little fifis. Is Jason Lake lost his mind? Yeah. And then what happened? He started bringing in the players. And what did the players say? How much for playing F? What? For him? Ooh. Like, yeah, but for poison.
Same fans, by the way. Same fans. Can you imagine tweeting that when your players are seeing? Which one of those are you a fan of still to this day? Who do you keep watching after they left Complexity? None of them. Because they were never any fucking good. That's why that whole thing, mate, is just like, they just pick a side no matter what the facts are, don't they? Just that day's just the side they hate.
Then when they started winning, all of a sudden Jason Lake was the best GM in the space. Literally, it is the exact same trajectory up until the results. And yet Cloud9 are to be reviled for being incompetent and morons and greedy and stupid with their money. And HenryG's just a caster, so what does he know about Counterstrike? Meanwhile, Jason Lake was getting all the same heat, but then they started winning. That's all it comes down to. It's literally the result. It's not even to do with the methodology. But what the fuck would the Reddit plebs know? Then on top of that, when you just start looking at, like I say, the absolute level of vitriol, the narratives that people have been crafting around, like, overpayment and HenryG and not knowing what he's doing and all this, like none of it actually checks if you look at it. They all say as well on Reddit, develop young talent. Develop talent. They say, why is it the same people who get picked up all the time? Why are you recycling the has-beens? Where's the talent? When will someone develop the talent? Why didn't you sign Chaos, Cloud9, Optic? So they go out. What do? They sign Zeppa. They keep Floppy, 2 up-and-coming players, right? Like, they get Mezzi from the UK, literally playing in fucking ESEA Premier. Or might even have been advanced. I don't even know how much of a step up it was. Can't remember off the top of my head. I think he was Premier, but anyway, whatever. Pick him up. He was a top 5 player in the league. Everyone said he's going to fail, he's going to flop. Those 3 players were probably the best parts about the project, frankly.
Yes.
Right? And that's not to be disparaging about Alex as a player or Esatag. Esatag's had to end up being a fucking AWPer, for fuck's sake. Right? So he's gone out and developed talent and brought these people up to the level. And like I say, you can see by watching Floppy play, Zeppa play, they belong in Tier 1 Counter-Strike. They don't look out of place. They've played really well. They've been developed. Nah, fuck Henry for trying to do that. So you don't care about any of the things that you care about. What you care about is following what everyone else is saying. And I know what you'll all say to this. Oh, it's Henry, Richard sticking up for his mate Henry. Like what? We didn't bang on him and mock him and meme him and write fucking songs about him and fucking I'm not sending him all the hate messages he gets on Discord every day. You don't know, but reality is reality, and you cunts aren't about that. What you're about is what are people right? They did a test, and I hope people are cognizant of this next time you're using social media. They did a study where basically they would go into Reddit threads as soon as they were created, and they would create one thread in one subreddit and post comments that way, and go into another thread and post comments that way. And almost uniformly, the first 3 comments dictate what all you morons, what all you cretins will say, because none of you have a fucking backbone. Even in an anonymous environment, you want to go along with the consensus. And that's all this Cloud9 hate has really been about. It's about you guys wanting to feel like you're fucking on the right side. Well, guess what, guys? You have cheered on The biggest org in North America dropping Counterstrike. And trust me, EG just went out in the groups today. I don't believe that CEO for a second. You know, I heard they were definitely considering it. And I saw people posting, yes, Stan and Zeus has got to go. You don't understand. If they don't make it with Obo, off to Valorant they go, and they will not look back. And then the NA scene is Team Liquid. And trust me, if you know anything about this business and who these people are and how they operate, it won't take long for that to change either. It won't matter. It'll be the first bad tournament result they have. And you're applauding that. So when all of the shit are predicted, and we're already at about 25%, when all the shit are predicted on that live stream comes true, look at yourselves. Because you have literally applauded the death of North American Counter-Strike. That's essentially what you did. You expedited it, in fact. Good job.
I'll even tag in as well. The other part I found so dirty, because you nailed it there as well. The goalposts changing was corrupt as fuck. Like, either your logic is like my logic, like, right, if you're Cloud9 and you sign big name free agents, you're going for number one, and if you don't reach number one, you fail. No, they did that simultaneous to, as you said, being like, why is no one in tier one picking up Zeppa and Floppy? Right, well, we've signed those players now, so we're not that team anymore that's now going for the best players in the world. We're signing like young players that you might want to watch. Now I'll only treat you like you did sign all the best players and you are FaZe Clan. Meanwhile, by the way, I'll just tie it into this. You're the same fans, right, that were cool with about 3 years of FaZe Clan having the biggest names ever, the biggest salaries, and just sitting there coming 7th at tournaments with you. You're all cool with that. Or a best case scenario is like a 4th place finish where NiKo just goes, if we didn't lose the ecos, then we would have. It's like, yeah, you're just cool with that, yeah. Because here's the thing, they didn't tell you how much NiKo gets paid, and they didn't tell you how much Olaf Meister gets paid. And you didn't know what sort of contract they signed someone who was a player like Adren to. You have no idea if that was for megabucks or was it for nothing. You don't know anything. You don't even have the basic preliminary facts to be able to make a judgment. But instead, what you're going to do, and I'm going to throw this out there as one last thing, because in my opinion, the Cloud9 hate, Richard, and the Flashpoint hate, it was a fucking Venn diagram that was a circle covering another circle of identical sides. Here's the other part I noticed in this industry. I was actually being silly before when I was like, why do all the clout chasers and journalists like HLTV, who in theory should know the space, why do they all lie about Flashpoint? I know why now. It's obvious. Because none of these motherfuckers ever had a single inside source ever. Notice how none of them ever got any of the Cloud9 team before it was launched, right? No, I'm not talking about weeks and weeks and weeks later when you could know because of who they're talking. I'm talking about when the initial project was going to be launched, none of you could guess. I even told a HLTV journalist, you've technically actually misrepresented this Cloud9 information here, where you said all of the players would be rehoused in other teams, and that's not true. Now, what ended up happening, my dude? Floppy ended up joining. You didn't know that, but I did. How is that? Because I actually have sources and you don't. You're just a guy you're just another dog in the dog park sniffing the arseholes of the other dogs. That's all you guys do. So I actually think, no joke, Richard, another trend in Counter-Strike in particular, I haven't seen as much in other games. In Counter-Strike, if someone does have some connections, maybe they know a few pro players in the NA scene, maybe they know only a few other journalists and they all share information as they are wont to do. If there's a story that they don't have any inside link on, the default move is to dismiss it, downplay it, and just tell a lie about it. That's like literally the clout chaser move now. Because it's the only way to pretend you've got some in on the story. Because it never made sense to me, mate. These are people who even want to work with Cloud9 and the Flashpoint orgs. Like, that's the part that never made sense. So I told those Flashpoint people years ago, they didn't listen to me, sadly. Just don't ever work with any of these people. Start afresh. Let's just fucking cut them all off. No press access. None of that shit. Sadly, of course, they went the other direction on that one.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just ridiculous. And, you know, look, I'll get to the final point just about the Cloud9 stuff, because I know a lot of people are like, well, this was just a bad team, a bad pickup. It was a waste of money, you know, whatever. No, guys, I am telling you, when do you think they're going to come back? When are Cloud9 coming back? They've got rid of their team. RMRs are meant to be in May. When are they coming back, guys? They're willing to not have a team for a major. So when are they coming? A LAN, the first LAN back. When are they coming back? When would you do it? Right? They're not coming back. And I will tell you this, I will bet one of my bollocks, Lefty probably, smaller, he's only half, but I'll bet that bollock, I'll put it on, that at least 2 of the 3 players that were Mezzy, Zeppa, and Floppy are going to be playing Valorant. For Cloud9. Because why not?
They'll just convert the contract or something.
Well, yeah, because you've already got them under contract. This is a problem. You know,
sense.
when you release players, there's clauses. you know, it's not just like, right, we don't employ you anymore. You have to pay them. You have to pay them like a fucking severance. You know, or you bench them, and then if you bench them, you still got to pay like their salary. I don't even know what it would be, but you pay like anything between 30 to 70% of their salary when people are benched. So they can't bench them, so they've got to cut them. So that's more money on the way out, not to play. So at the end of the day, Cloud9's Valorant team definitely got room for improvement. They already got Leaf over there. So yeah, Zeppo, 100%. Think he would just move to Valorant. I think he already considered that before he gave this a go. And, you know, so once again, let's look at the other thing that's just happened as a result of this. What's that? Young developing talent no longer, they understand there's no future for them in CS. They have to go to another game. It's over, guys. You know, I keep seeing people saying, yeah, but look at the viewership numbers. Viewership is the final thing to topple. Always in esports.
And everyone's trapped in watching all the fucking games, aren't they? It's probably the worst time ever to boast about the viewership.
Yes. Trust me, if you've ever followed the death of an esport before, right? And I've seen many of them. If you ever followed the death of a league, the death of a project, whenever you see these things go into decline, the viewership's the last thing to go. It's the last thing to go. It starts with the cutbacks and the money, and
even the owl viewership's not as bad as people would imagine in context. Like,
no,
yeah,
not within context. No, But this is how you know it is an abject failure. I mean, shit, there was a story in Overwatch the other day with the Vancouver Titans where they weren't willing to spend $7,000 to get a much better team. Like a buyout is what they would have had to pay, like $1,000 per player. And they weren't willing to pay even that. And they went and got a much worse team for free. So what does it tell you about what's going on over there, where a fucking org that's run by a big VC company won't even spend $7,000 fucking dollars? I've had bar tabs like that, for fuck's sake. Let alone signing an actual
NiKo's
team
like,
that might be able to compete.
Preach, show me, preach.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it is. They were his bar tabs. You know? So it's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, guys, I don't know how to break it to you, right? Like all of those chaos. Like, you've already lost Vanity. He could have done something in the space. He's gone. You've lost Leaf. What a young, exciting player. He's got. If you're a North American FPS talent now, you don't play Counterstrike. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your time. That's it. And like I say, it's EG. All the people who are wanting EG to make roster changes based on, you know, the group stage performance in the ESL Pro League. If they make a roster change, they're going to Valorant. They're not going to spend again. It has to work with Obo or it's over. So, you know, fucking hell. Like, keep in mind as well, don't think it's just NA. NA is just the start, right? Is no one else concerned simple streaming fucking Valorant every day and is already in the highest rank? No one thinks that we could lose the GOAT player. Not now. But maybe tomorrow. Depends what the investment's like. Depends what the franchise looks like. Could be next year. CS has real problems, guys. Real problems. And Valve aren't going to help. They don't care. They went all in on Dota once again. Oh, viewership's in decline. Let's make an anime. Can't do that for CS. Fair enough, because of the subject matter. But, you know... They make an anime, finally put a tutorial in the game, and have a LAN event at a major, and everyone's promoting it and pimping it out. What do we got? We don't even know when the regional major ranking events are coming yet. We don't even know who's got them, what format it'll be, where the points will start. They don't give a fuck. This community, it's always been about us. And you guys, I don't know, just going to say it, the fans, you all been mad slacking. You've been mad slacking. You got complacent. You don't know the work that goes into keeping the game alive. It's over now. I mean, shit, man. Fucking coaches cheating, match fixing everywhere. You know, entire continents where no one will enforce competitive integrity, so they just get away with it. NA's pieced out, new game coming, Riot Games, by the way, literally watching everything Valve does that pisses the community off, and then doing the exact opposite in Valorant, like it was just leaked. They're gonna have spots for coaches in the game, right? Where, meanwhile, we can't have coaches because all of our coaches were cheating bastards. Guys,
economics are worse than ever, by the way, because if people don't know, like, you know that pie that we all had to take increasingly smaller slices of. Good news, the slices are even smaller now because the pro players still want just as much money, because just like the morons who used to play for MIBR, they don't even know what a market is, never mind those words that are just tumbling out their mouths, market value. By the way, when you have no other offers and you never get any other offers, you have zero market value, you fucking imbecile. Don't say a word you don't understand. Get someone more intelligent and pay them to speak the words. By the way, KNG, if you could go back in time, I just fixed your whole career right there. Anyway, the other point is this, right? The same players that demand enormous salaries while not knowing what the current economics are. Good news, everyone. You know what has changed since Flashpoint arrived? Every pro player now has an agent. So now that agent's getting you even more salary just so they can take their 20%. Oh, by the way, didn't you know that? You know, like in the past, some agents would just take a fee up front. No, now they just take a percentage of your salary and they just keep you on that bloody drip with that parasite on your back years after he stopped doing anything for you. Oh, and good news, by the way, isn't there someone there to protect all those players? Yeah, there's the CSPPA, who, as far as I can tell, are just literally, allegedly, a fucking scam to move more money from the TO's pockets into the pockets of let me check notes, the people who are in charge of the CSPPA. And who are they? Former agents. Like, you people are so stupid, the people you choose to support, and then the people you vilify. By the way, here's how you know you're a motherfucking mark who isn't even spouting his own ideas. You conveniently vilify all the people trying to make actual real change and progress the industry to a place better for everyone, and the ones you love are all the ones who were the scumbags holding it back. Guess what? That means you're just saying what they want you to say, you fucking imbeciles. And no, don't look to a website like, but HLTV.org tells me who has more kills than deaths. Well, then I guess they'll just be doing straight fire journalism, like all the best. No, nothing. They've got absolutely fuck all. They do about 3 stories of their own every year that isn't just player X is joining Team Y. Like, and then you guys, including everyone in the scene, hails them like they're fucking geniuses advancing the scene and the space. These people are the opposite. If anything, they've been the ones who get in the way of the data and go, you're not ever having any of that. I'm just keeping it all to myself. Might even try selling it to some companies if I can. What's that? I've been bought by a betting company. Can't imagine what they would want all my database for. You people are actually just feckless beyond control.
Yep. And well, listen, it's like I said, mate, my new ethos is that if the industry, the whole industry, not just like the CSA, but if the industry can't be brought in line with what it should be, like, fuck it. Yep. I'm happy to take a sledgehammer to it. Always was. It's 20 years of my life. I'll make a decision about whether or not it gets to stand. So, just fuck this. Like, you can't say as I'm incoming. We've been like we've had so many chances. We had when the skins came in and we fucking let all the betting sites come up and all the COD guys abuse it. We went, haha, that's fine. Then all the other money grubbers come in, and then it was cash betting, then it was match fixing, then it was we just all the time we just think because we've existed for as long as we have, it's unassailable. Nothing lasts forever, guys. Like it doesn't work like that. And as I keep saying, increasingly in a digital age, your product in Counterstrike competes with every other product in entertainment all over. So why would people come to this? What happens when everyone in America is saying Valorant's the way to go, all the orgs move over there, all their little 14, 15-year-old fans that don't know any better, here's a video with Courage and some music star saying, yeah, Valorant's the best, buy our merch, and they all blindly follow it. Like the fucking Pied Piper of fucking Hamlin. What do you think happens then? It's like you guys, you've got no vision, you've got no wisdom, and you talk and you talk and you talk, and here we are, and it's happening. So remember all of this, guys. I suppose this is kind of linked. It's not like a particularly massive story, but there is a bit of a segue there in the sense that I don't know why players are signing long-term contracts in Counter-Strike, especially right now when everything's so precarious. But we can use this to talk a little bit about Fnatic in general.
Mate, by the way, there's the one thing, just quickly by the by. There's how I also know that people in this industry knows nothing about even the basics of the industry. Mate, I saw some of the other podcasts when that story came out, like earlier this year or whatever, that like Ziwu would sign a 5-year contract, and their take was like, brilliant, let's hope he stays in Vitality a long time. What? What? And dude, I couldn't believe it. Like, these are people in theory who know the industry as well. It's like, you don't have any comment at all about the idea he's locked in for 5. What? Like, I thought I was on crazy pills, mate. It was mental.
No, but so also as well, the idea that CSGo's still here.
I know, exactly. The whole thing's mental on all sides, isn't it?
Yeah, great job. But yeah, anyway, so Brolin, Fnatic announced that he signed a contract until 2024. And it's a bit of a weird thing to type. You can have a rest. Yeah, so, he's signed till 2024 now. And like, other than the market being the worst time to sign this type of contract, and probably, of all the teams to commit to this amount
that
of
might legit
time.
not even be here in that many years if you don't watch out, bro. Like, that's what your ass, mate.
I know. So when I saw this, I just want to talk about in general because, it was looking so good when Fnatic got Golden back and they went out there and they had some deep runs. I think they even won a tournament with him, when he first came back. Yeah, Malmo, that's right. But since then, I mean, Fnatic have been absolute ass, like, lately. And I think they need, a complete reinvention. I mean, they're down to 17th in the world. They've been plummeting down the world rankings since June last year, and they just look out of shit. They've brought in this Jaquinho. Like, he's been hit or miss. I don't want to hate on the guy. JW has had a bit of a nightmare, and he was tweeting apologies because he never shies away from facing it. But the bottom line is the best thing about this team is Crimson Brolin, and they really look to be struggling for ideas, for tactics. They don't look like a relevant top tier team anymore. And they've just I mean, they even lost to Endpoint the other day. I mean, holy fucking shit. I mean, like, as bad as they are, you wouldn't expect them to lose to a UK team in fucking CSGo, would you? But yep, turns out they are. I mean, they're highly likely now to finish rock bottom of Group D in the ESL Pro League. So very hard to sort of see the future for this team and where they go, because also coincidentally they just happen to be in a region that recycled talent for so long it didn't actually develop any. Yeah. And that, that generation that was meant to replace the Get Rights, the Forests, the Freiburgs, people, it never came along, did it? There was lots of names, lots of people that were talked about, Crims and the Olaf Meisters as well, just to include them. It never happened. And so
that's even something.
I don't even know where you go here. Like,
that is actually something that is really weird when you think about it, because here's the area that it should have shown up that this was like. Put it this way: it can't just be that the top teams didn't pick up the talent, therefore they didn't appear. Because think of how many players in FPL come along and everyone's like, this guy Spinks is from Israel, and then this guy's from Estonia, and this guy's from Lithuania, and this guy's from. Where are all the Swedes? Like, if people don't know, once you went below the top 3 teams, which was basically Pro Counterstrike at 1.6. Like, you could literally, I'm not joking, go 100 players deep of like professional player level talent. A guy who's played semi-pro, you'll never know him because if you're in Sweden or looking online competition, but his skills are like right there. In fact, it's one of the reasons why famously I always used to give the example that my actual favorite frag movies in 1.6 were those players. Because in the era when like the pro player wouldn't make a frag movie because he doesn't want to seem like a tryhard, some cunt who's just a semi-pro, well, he wants to be famous. So what he'll do is he'll collect every gather demo he ever had where you did an insane like Deagle ace against pro players, and he'll put it in his fucking movie because he wants the clout. So if people don't know, like, the amount of talent in Sweden was unbelievable. It was way more than the pros. I know they had amazing pros, but like, they had an incredibly deep scene. But I have to say, in CSGO, the most alarming thing is, like I say, where are all those guys in FPL? You almost never hear about the next Swede. But then even worse, it's that if you go to any of the top teams, Nape, fucking Fnatic, and you just say to them, who is the next best player? Dude, some of those guys don't know. And they're not joking. Like, they're just like, I have no idea, honestly. Like, I haven't even heard of anyone. That's why when everyone was trying to tell me that I should hype like those players that joined Gig, I was like, mate, even some of the players I was asking about those players were like, I'm amazed he's actually in that team. That's how bad it's gotten in the fucking Nordic region, specifically Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, look, there is a team you can build, in Sweden, but with Fnatic, if you start spreading the talent between NIP and Fnatic, then there's nothing there. I mean, NIP are hands down a much, much better team than Fnatic, and at least trying to develop talent in ZTR, who, I'll just say this as well, I think the team functions a lot better without Twist in it, but ZTR, outside of his initial series where he battered Astralis, he hasn't been amazing. But other people have now got the space and the confidence, and comms seem to be better and they seem to be a bit happier. But if you took like Crims and you took Rez and you took Hampus and you took Plopsky, we're already talking now, you know, and probably as well. Brawlan, you put him on there. You know, you between the two orgs, you can make a super Swedish team that would be in the top 10.
If you want to do
obviously,
like
it's not
Jam,
going to happen. There's just not enough talent to go around in the region anymore, which I never thought I'd be saying about Sweden in CSGO, frankly. I never thought it would get to that stage.
If you want to make the Space Jam team, like it has to be all the best Swedes and they have to like win a major, I agree you could do it. But the point is, like, neither team's going to deliver the players you need to, because like, as you say, it'd be the big names from Fnatic and it'd be like the young players from Nips. I don't think anyone's going to ever do that team, sadly.
Yeah, I just don't think it can happen. But yeah, so Brawlan signing on for 3 years. I mean, I hope you got a big amount of money up front, because this is the other ongoing problem with this. You know, you get promised a salary. Well, if the economics take a downturn, spoiler, the economics are taking a downturn, and the org decides it can't afford to keep the team, you don't get any of that, you know.
Yes. It's not guaranteed, like people. We need to bring that term in, I think, from like fucking other games, because same with the benching thing. It's one of the reasons why I've even had some pro players where I've been like, "You're an idiot, mate." Like they've been, "No, I'm not. Look at the steal I got." I said, "Okay, what if tomorrow they decide to bench you?" Well, why would they do that though? I'm good. Like I'm out already on this conversation. Yeah. This is like a child I'm talking away, mate. Because basically, there's a million ways those orgs cannot give you the money. Meanwhile, you have to do everything exactly right, otherwise you don't get the money as well. Like they know what the game they're playing.
Yeah. Oh no, it's crazy. But yeah, Fnatic for me, definitely need to start thinking about making some serious changes if they want to get back to where they are. I just don't even know what those changes would look like. Unless they spend money and maybe steal a bit of talent away from NIP, I think they're going to be, they're going to continue to trend downward, which is really sad, because honestly, this is like one of the least competitive top 10s, in terms of the overall ceiling I think we've ever had in CSGO, frankly. Anyway, there was another bit of news where I definitely want to get into this, because obviously it was revealed over on the HLTV podcast that Kuben, the Polish guy, was going to, I say guy, obviously he's a bit more of a legend than that. And a nice dude. I like Kuben. I've always got on with him. He was unveiled on that podcast as being the Mad Lions coach. And he'd said, like, we're looking at players, we're looking at some international caliber players, and we're going to build a team.
I'll be back in 1 second. Just keep going.
Yeah, no worries. And then they ended up unveiling their roster, and it was far from the type of caliber of player that I think people were expecting. I will reel off the roster. It is TMB from Denmark, Tudson, who you will have heard of from Poland, Waro2K from Ukraine. He's going to make up a large portion of the upcoming segment. Keen from, I believe, Latvia, JL from Lithuania, and Sausol from Spain. So it is one of the wildest lineups of kind of like no-namers and, it almost has-beens to a certain
This is
degree.
Moneyball, if people don't know. This would be an applicable use of the term Moneyball, because that's what he is attempting to do, presumably. He's presumably looking for, like, this is the next guy from country that nobody gives a fuck about, therefore I can get them cheap, and I'm going to make a top team. Or whatever. Now, sadly, the reason why that movie is a movie is because it's barely ever going to exist as a premise, is it? So who gives a fuck about these players?
Yeah. And Regin, who can no longer be a coach, he's now moved up to manager over at Mad Lions. Regin was one of the players, one of the coaches rather, when the ban came down. I do believe he received enough demerits to never be allowed to be at the majors ever again. Not that it really matters for coaches, because coaching is largely irrelevant anyway. But he's a manager over there now, and he gave a statement saying, "We're excited to give these rookies a shot. They are eager to perform and show what they can do. We are not done yet with our lineup, and we will most likely add another player to this lineup with the coaching staff we have behind the players." So that's Kuben and Musambani, the old Spanish 1.6 player, if people remember him. He used to play, was it Existence with the six? Yep, thought so. Anyway, we sure are on something great. It will take time, but we are here for the long run. So, I mean, for me, I just don't even know what Mad Lions are really going for here. This sort of says to me that the org, if you know anything about the money behind it, they're more interested in the other esports they're invested in. And they said, listen, we'll have a CS team, provided it's going to cost us absolutely fuck all to run, essentially. And that's what you've got here. You've got a bunch of players you haven't heard of, bunch of players who've maybe had 1 or 2 chances in their careers, bunch of people that some people are like, oh, I've seen him in FPL and he's sick. I don't think, that makes a team. And the idea that, you're in this for the long run. This has got like the same vibes as the old Imperial lineup, had, where they would go to like a tier 2 LAN and upset maybe the best team at that tier 2 LAN, but then not win the LAN. So I am not vibing with this at all. And it just looks like such a mad come down when you consider, what? Summer last year, we're talking about Mad Lions being one of like the breakout teams.
Mate, let's imagine I take Mad Lions that won Flashpoint 1, right? And I tell you, good news, Richard, of course I'm competent. So I've retained all these players until the very end of their contracts. So good news. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that set of players. I'll keep Akor, my AWPer. I'll keep Bobski, one of the breakout talents. I'll keep Shush because he was kind of like the underrated but like pretty skilled player. And you know what? Good news. I can just add MSL and another Danish player in and boom, there we go straight away. Top 10 team. I'm cooking with gas. Maybe we're doing things this year. You talk about the Fnatic of the world, Cloud9s, they missed them. I'm moving up past them. Easily the best team. No, didn't do any of that, of course. Literally pissed away all that talent. And the worst thing of all, this is the area where you should laugh in someone's face for how they deal with their business. I heard they pissed away those players and they didn't even correctly manage the buyout, so they got fuck all for most of those players. Yeah, actually, literally everyone is just laughing in Mad Lion's face. That's how bad this is. It's actually embarrassing that you just essentially gifted that talent.
Did I ever tell you as well about what they did to try and prevent that? How they were so when people were basically when people realized you can get these players for a song, there were a few orgs that were kind of like sniffing around them. And Mad Lions were basically threatening to get like litigious and stuff to these orgs. Like, how dare you tap our players? Tortious interference, like, and it was like because they just didn't have anything in the contract that was going to sort of like net them anything. They're poaching! Everyone's poaching! It's like, there's no rules about this, you mad cunt. So yeah, I mean, it was inept. But here's the thing I want to talk about, because we always keep it real on this podcast. We always have. Now, this Warro 2K guy, he has generated a lot of attention, and it's not particularly positive attention. And I have no idea why any tier 1 organization that kind of respects competitive integrity would want to pick this player up at this time under these circumstances. Because, so first of all, what we know about Warro 2K is in the same way that other players that we've stood up for and will continue to do so, he's had a VAC banned account at some point in his past. We don't know the ins and outs of it, the details of it. He's just never denied that it was his account, but it does have a VAC ban on it. There were some leaked DMs that came out of VK, which were allegedly him talking to someone. Some people have said these were fake, but the video that was circulating was him, like, you could see somebody was logging into the account, whoever it was he was talking to, and he was basically like saying he was using some cheats and he would make his PC lag out. I won't take that as necessarily big evidence, but then this guy is producing, a factory farm of flusher level of clips, all the time from his time in FPL, and just talking to people behind the scenes. With the Simple has sort of stood up for him and said he's going to be a good player and he's as good as me and he's sick and all of this stuff. But most pros,
which in itself's a bit rich if you know Simple's own history, where to this day he still spits some like I'm semi-sure nonsense about his own back ban, where he like sort of denies like which game it's. So mate, there's still some more fuckery there where it's like, look, Simple, you just haven't pissed me off enough yet. I've got to fucking done the legwork on that one, mate.
Yeah, and then obviously, like I said, just all the pros I'm talking to in FPL, it's like, they're saying they think he's a fishy player. Now, keep in mind that means fuck all, because I was one of the guys that stood up for Rops when they were all calling him a cheater, because I never saw one clip of Rops that ever looked like anything dodgy. But I mean, shit, some of the I don't know if you've seen the I
haven't seen any of his guys. Are they really bonkers?
Let me just show you one. And remember, like, I'm not saying he is a cheater. I want to make that absolutely clear. But if an entire community is speculating about something, I'm not going to pretend that speculation isn't happening just because people go, oh, you can't say that. No, we can say that. We're a talk show. We're a discussion show. We're going to talk about the things that are being discussed in the community.
What I've always loved is this. Think about it, dickhead on the internet. You're allowed to discuss us, so why, when we're just on the internet, would we not be allowed to discuss what we want? You are aware we aren't hired by like Mr. Internet. We work for ourselves, so we'll talk about anything we want to.
So let me find it's the overpass clip. I think I've got it here. And then, you know, keep in mind there's a bunch of other ones which are all like just inconclusive. This used to get you banned back in my day if you ever did this. So I don't know if you want to bring it up, and Sam, and we can 3, 2, 1 it if you want.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
The fuck?
And there it is. That is a
yikes and a half.
It is a yikes. That's all I'm saying, right? That's all I'm saying. It's just a yikes, mate. That's all I'm saying. I'm just drawing attention to a yikes. And so, you know, maybe there's something else going on that I don't know about because I'm not a pro level player. But, you know, that in isolation looks particularly bad. Now, he wouldn't be the first player, by the way, who's had clips of exactly. I remember, I think it was it Spy Leader or Bubble? One of the Bulgarians had a clip exactly like that on Inferno. Someone looked like they were coming around the corner, but they were in boiler, and he shot at them, and it was bang on. I mean, this is one of the problems, unfortunately. One of the worst things that ever happened to the game was X-Ray. Basically, because your brain is programmed, whether you accept it or not, to not accept coincidence and to craft a narrative and meaning to try and reassemble chaotic events into something that's coherent. So when you see something like that, obviously it can be a coincidence. Of course it can. But, you know, for me, when I'm always like, when I see 1 clip, 2 clip, whatever, you know, I said if you called Sabrosa a cheater, you need to start talking about other players that had other clips. Like, you know, you've got to be consistent in your application. But I will say, this guy, with the existence of a VAC banned account, with all of the other stuff going on, with these leaked DMs, you start getting a collection of stuff that it's just like, if I was an org, I would give this a pass, no matter how good he is. Because I think this can only come back and bite you in the arse. Like, the upside of him being a sick player, right? Playing in that team, by the way, so he leaves you as soon as he gets a better offer. The upside of you essentially developing him for another org, but you get maybe 3 to 6 months of the benefit compared to the absolute stinking scandal if something bad really happens. Nah, I would have been passing on that.
I'll give you the analogy. Here's the analogy, because here's exactly how sports would do it. Right? Here's the thing, right? If you were a player coming out of college who had all these legal problems, like, mate, you'll just never get signed in the NFL. You'll never get on a team. But you know what? If you've done all that shit, but you are Antonio Brown, a million teams will take a chance on you. Because there's the point of the distinction that I'm making, and Richard's making his point here. That player's worth taking that fucking hate on for, because he is straight fire in the game. You're not going to do it for someone who hasn't even made it. Like, this Warrow cunt might not even be good in 6 months. And so, yeah, what upside did you get from it? If he's already simple, yeah, at that point in time, we'll take a gamble. So I agree, mate. What's the point? And this move right here, listen, I don't give a fuck even if they are going to say that, like, Kuben's, like, scouted the game and yours. First of all, he couldn't get fuck all good Polish players in a Virtus Pro. So I've got my questions about that. And then secondly, apparently he was just cool with just all those NV players playing. So I've not got my questions about that. And then the third one would be this. What? No one else in the entire scene, including all the CIS teams, want these players. They're just fucking straight fire players, all just freely available. This just looks like an incredibly cynical team that you've set up. And by the way, this is like doing some HenryG level shit. Putting it all on Kuben's back without even giving him the players, mate. These aren't even like proven players. So when this team fails, presumably we're all supposed to flame Kuben. Whereas I'm looking at this team and going, did anyone even give you any budget? Was it even possible to sign second-tier players? Doesn't necessarily look like it to me. So it's another team that, let's face it, this is why Flashpoint the project is just a waste of fucking time at this point, isn't it? Like, they're all just min-maxing. They're all trying to spend the minimum possible to get the maximum result. And by the way, the second a moron in your chat goes, that's it, it's more to be like, just ban that person forever. They don't need to be in that chat. chat. They're not even able to perceive our ideas. Like for them to get a single point would be like traveling through the fucking trip in the infinite in 2001. Like, oh my God. Like, so it's too much for them to handle. Let's get them out. Just get them out now.
Oh, well, I'll instruct my mods to do that. Okay, so yeah, I mean, look, I'll just add some final thoughts on it. You know, I think when you consider like what Mad Lions were, what I think they're going to do with this team, I don't really understand it. But I guess it's just part of the broader conversation where we're even at a point now where tier 2 organizations can see the writing on the wall. I think you know, this represents, we're going to stay in CS because right now it is still worth doing it. It's the #1 game on Steam. It's still got pretty good viewership, but when you sign players of this caliber and this reputation, you either the game picks up again somehow against all the odds, and you can sell these players on and make a profit, or you can cut these players and you really haven't lost anything, and maybe you've had a little bit of benefit of, you know, keeping your sponsors in the eyes of esports fans. So yeah, I don't expect that team to do a great deal. And as I said, I think the Waro 2K stuff, it's one of those situations where it's like, you know, they're gonna have like, I mean, for me, there should have been a comprehensive. If you pick up a player like that, an org should be putting out a comprehensive statement, like, you know, like we all knew about Jampy, we all knew he had a VAC ban, we all know the story behind it. We knew he was in litigation with Valve to try and get it so he could go and potentially play, and it came out very early, and it was put out by, you know, his representatives, by ENTS. Everyone was transparent. There's so many questions about Waro 2K in his history and everything else, that, you know, if you're picking up a player like that, you have to have a PR statement individually for that player. Like, yes, we're aware of his past. He had a VAC ban here, but this is what happened. You know, it's not rocket science. But yeah, I would have swerved it personally.
By the way, I'll just take this quick moment. Shout out to Jason Lake and Carlos from G2, because you're actually two of the only people trying to be leaders in this industry.
Oh, yeah.
Who apparently do believe in Counterstrike as a game, and we're trying to buy the dip of the market and be like, right, now's my time to go get my superstar. The rest of you that just follow each other, like, you're all just fucking cowards. And quite frankly, scared money deserves to lose all its fucking money. So you know what? Even though I'll hate to see my game die, I'd take Counterstrike dying if as many of you took a mortal financial wound as possible.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it is like, it is sad really that the people, you know, the people that are kind of like innovating and doing right by the space are the ones that are going to get burnt the most, unfortunately. You know, when all this does come down, there ain't no justice in esports or anywhere probably, but certainly not in this business. Right, the next story, OG have said they were looking for another replacement for Issa after they moved Issa to the bench, and the favorite has emerged as Michu, the Polish player that was last seen with Envy, where he was one of the top fraggers alongside. It was him and Calix used to, you know, kind of get it done for that weird roster. Now, so I think, sure, it suggests to me OG aren't going to spend money. They're not going to spend the money. Michu is a very much a budget pickup. But what I will say here is, I think he's a player that has been on the precipice of showing true greatness for a while, and unfortunately, he's been hampered by the type of teams he's been in. That, you know, I don't think Envy was a particularly great home for him, and it hasn't necessarily showcased his talent. I think now playing for, I mean, put it this way, there's no doubt in my mind he represents an upgrade from Issa by some distance. And I think out of all of the kind of Moneyball signings that are going on right now, this is the one I say, yep, you know what? He's actually going to make it. He's good enough.
I think Michu's a solid player. Like I said, even when he went to Envy, I saw like that was one of the few him and Calix were the only two, in my opinion, like defensible signings that Envy made. Like those are quality players, just they hadn't been in the right team to have the success that potentially they could. So I actually think if you even look who they've replaced, like I do think they've definitely lost like the experience angle, because you can't replace MBK with NiKo and fucking this guy. Like they're not as experienced. But what they've basically done is put two players who played entry positions in instead of MBK and Insta. So as far as I can tell, the good news is this: like if Alexi B is the like genius IGL that I think he is, he's got some good pieces now to get that done with. And I'll even say this: he didn't sign massive names, so you can't even claim it's just because he got big players. Like if he can take this lineup to like, again, 5th, 6th in the world, looks very doable right now. It'll just show his quality as an in-game leader. I also think overall these players are better. I think you do lose some of what MBK brought, so whatever. Unfortunately, a lot of newer players will never understand that. They'll never understand it until they themselves are the veteran and they're around all the young kids who don't know the game. So I don't mind it overall. I think these aren't terrible picks. You'll see now, though, why the entire time OG has had a team, I have stressed every single fucking occasion to temper your expectations for what money OG will spend. Everyone's told me the whole time, but you're right. But what about TI? Like, well, how's that worked out for you then? How is it working out for you? Which one of your clout chasers was right and who was right? Exactly. I win.
Well, I mean, yeah, what's crazy about that is, like, I mean, again, it shows a fundamental lack of understanding.
But OG Rops, what about OG Rops?
I mean, I'll say I would have loved to have seen them pick.
It'd be amazing.
But I mean, you know, if we're talking $1 million buyout,
I don't think that was ever on the table.
No, I don't think they were ever going to spend it. I mean, keep in mind, this is what we. You know, I know we've been critical of OG. I don't think we've been too critical about them not spending money.
I don't think so.
I don't really recall.
I've never seen them as a huge project personally. I think of it the other way. I go, they've already been in Counterstrike just over a year. They've got a fucking not bad team actually. When you look at how the year's gone over, so to me, it's whatever. The problem is, if you look at them on paper, they are a team that I also look at, and I'm like, listen, if you signed one big name, this could be a fucking outrageously good team. But they're never going to do that, I don't think, unfortunately.
You know what I will say though is that, you know, we've said for years, you know, we want player-owned organizations and we want player-owned organizations to succeed. Well, I mean, you know, even with all of the success that these guys have had in Dota, that's what it was. You know, it was created by the players. They went to create their own team, own brand, went in there, got their own sponsors. You know, it's a huge success story, but equally as well, that means it's their own money. You know, and as we've established, having a CS team, it ain't cheap. And you know, I think they should have made some changes sooner, for sure. But quite clearly, they're never going to be the roster to go out and spend $1 million on a player. That's not going to happen. That's for the G2s. You know, maybe the complexities. You know, maybe not the Navis. Maybe the Liquids. You know, maybe those guys do it. But this team isn't, and I think overall, you know, if you had to give me a list of all the names in free agency, I think Michu's very right at the top. I think he's one of the better ones that I'd be willing to certainly pick up. So when that deal does go through, I think it's going to be a step in the right direction. NiKo's the one for me where I don't really know how I feel about that over MBK because they're not really the same type of player. But regardless, I think overall, they probably finish up on the two roster changes if they both go through. So I'll be
should be a
watching
better
OG
team,
and
I
seeing
feel
if
like.
they can climb up the rankings should any events present themselves. Right, now what else have we got on the news? I'm keeping one eye on the time because we've got a lot of Patron questions to get through. Oh, yes, you'll love this one. The ex-North trio, they've been reunited. It's good news. There's the Gade, AZ, and Kievi are back together and are going to create another Danish team. Joining them will be Borup and Fessor, and they are out there looking and hustling for an organization rather. So I'm sure you've got material for this, Duncan. I'm just going to sit back and let you assess this team. Does it find a home, and do you have any expectations for this team to do anything at all in the international Counter-Strike landscape?
Mate, this is like when they're like, we're going to try and make a team, or else. What's the or else? Just quit the game and all. Who the fuck would want this team? We're in a world where Flusher can go, I might just be a free agent. Automatic and Sonny, you want to play with me? And then everyone in the team goes, pass. And then Guardian goes, I'm actually really motivated now. I'm probably one of the best natural players to ever play Counter-Strike. I'm willing to play for any team out there. Yeah, pass, not interested. NiKo and Cold Zero go, you know, we've been thinking of making a new team and winning all the majors. And teams go, you know what? Maybe next month. Come back next month. But then, wait a minute. Sir? Gade's available. Gade, right. We're going to... What? It's a package deal, though. Well, okay, fair enough. Borup's coming with him. Borup, when he just got from Heroic, though. It's all right, though. They got the fifth man locked in. Who is it? MSL? Fessor. Like, what is it? Mate, if MIBR aren't being signed and all these legendary players aren't being signed, who the fuck is signed? In fact, whoever signs this team, this is a joke, allegedly, in video game, this is money laundering. Whoever signs this team needs to be investigated by Interpol because it's 100% money laundering. It can't possibly be because they believe in Counterstrike. They probably don't even know. I bet the team's based in the fucking Cayman Islands. Look into it. That's all I'm saying. The only hot tip you're going to get on this fucking transfer market is me to Interpol, seeing if I can get some of that snitch money.
Yeah, I mean, the timing's terrible. I mean, because I guess I can use this to sort of jump into a broader point, right? Which was, that all PLANO team.
Yeah, or PLANO or whatever, yeah.
Listen, I don't think, and this is what I've been told behind the scenes. Like, I know they were recently linked with Envious. And Hastro was tweeting out some cryptic tweets or whatever. I think that's just milking Brazilian fan engagement. I don't.
All you need to know is this, right? This is the sort of petty arsehole I am, but I'm so good at it though. All I do is I just check in with my sources, Richard, every few weeks. Any real offers being tendered by organizers, and then when the answer is no, down goes a little tweet again. So everyone who goes, like you're saying now, Richard, but I've heard they're talking so. They haven't had a single offer tendered to the people who have their contract. That's irrelevant. So everything you're saying is irrelevant. That's all just things like you're saying for the cameras or for the community. The second someone tenders an offer, I'll let you know. So until then, I'm just going to sit back on a fucking chair of hubris called market value and laugh at the fucking peon pleb that is KNG going, I have a plan though. Motherfucker, your plan is so trash. Even fucking MacGyver would go, couldn't work, mate. Just give up. Just let yourself die.
Yeah, I mean, this, it's hard to believe they went from MIBR to no, wink, wink, we're going to get picked up by Flamengo to Envious. Want to give it a try? No, but I will use you for Twitter engagement because I'm Astro, and even though I talk down to people for seeking out clout, I still can't not stop seeking out clout.
There's no chance they're going to end up with flamingos, but they have got a motherfucking albatross around their neck called KG's hubris. Probably too highbrow for the fucking crowd that we're working with out here, but whatever.
Ancient Mariner, guys. Look it up.
Go.
But anyway, it's crazy. I mean, like, in this economy, in this market, with CS going the way it's going, their demands clearly aren't in line with what people want and understand. Again, out of all of the free agency teams, you'd be willing to go and pick up a big, Brazilian team.
There's so many upsides. Yeah.
Yeah, you unlock one of the largest fan bases on planet Earth, and I don't know. Again, I'm assuming based on what people do, it must convert into merchandise sales and marketing. Yeah, there has to be some. It can't, because at the end of the day, if you don't do that, the numbers are meaningless. Yes. That's why there's certain markets that you'll get a lot of engagement from, but if they don't spend, you're not going to get the marketing budget to market to those regions in the first place. So it seems it's like super strange, but I mean, I think basically what's going on behind the scenes is they have pretty outrageous salary demands in terms of like what the ROI would look like. No one wants to pay it right now. Their natural home, by the way, would be a North American organization.
I know those.
Yeah. How's that working out? And obviously then no one's you have to hold out and hope that one of these Brazilian footballers wants to spunk, loads of money on signing some Brazilian guys, ostensibly to be an esports team, but really just so they play with him and level his account up to global. That's really what we're talking about here. So, I mean, that is there's no light at the end of that tunnel. There's no light at the end of that tunnel. So, yeah, I think they got real problems. I don't even know if they're gonna. I don't even know if they're going to get into an org. And again, they
haven't even played a game. Here's the thing. I'd understand if they went and they were still active in corps. They haven't played an official game on Hutchell TV since Flashpoint 2. So they just sat on a shelf. No one's coming into the shop, and they just gathering.
Yeah. I mean, so, I don't want to say the V word, and I don't mean Villamix. I'm talking about Valorant. I mean, again, there's already rumors flying around that these guys are playing that. And maybe then, for Valorant, a North American org might take the risk, if indeed risk it is. But the idea of them getting picked up by any serious org right now. I mean, I think with each passing week, it's like the action scene. The door's fucking closing, and once it's closed, it's not opening again. So yeah,
the problem is, mate, the hubris of some pro players is killing them in CSGO right now. Like I'll just say it straight up. I've heard it's the same with MSL for the last couple of years. I've heard he's literally turned down, as in better in the game offers, just to try and get more salary on some of his deals. And as a result, he ends up, look how many months he goes between teams sometimes before he gets on one. Well, listen, mate, it ain't 2017 anymore. Not only are you older in the tooth in this case, but you don't have the same market value because the market doesn't exist like it did when we were offline. So that's the killer about the MIBR team. The MIBR team's not, by the way, funny enough, for the price that actually MIBR was willing to pay, they're not a bad team for that. They're worth a punt. They've got some decent players there. You've got the problem that you're going to have to replace VSM, who was one of the best players, so you're a little bit out of luck there. But okay, they will bring back Henny. That was what was going to work. I can see the logic there. By the way, KNG himself is a fucking unbelievable player right now. Like, just to get him would be worth it in your org. I know he's a fucking idiot in terms of some of the things he's done outside the server, but inside the server, he's a very skilled player right now. So there's upsides to that team. I'd even like to see them play. I enjoyed watching them at Flashpoint too. But the problem is, if you're going to be that far off the fucking pace of where everything is in terms of economics, you're never going to get back in the game. Like, if you really will never play for less than MIBR offered, I got a prediction for you right now. You never play Counterstrike ever again as a professional. There you go. There's my prediction for you. Or you just fucking swallow it, you take less, you go for another team, and you say, okay, fair play, I learned my lesson. Sadly, the one thing these motherfuckers don't do is learn their lesson. Let's be real.
Well, no, I mean, like, how long's MSL been in fucking free agency? Like, how long's it been? I'm just about to look now. I'm going
to say at least a few months, right? 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, let's have a look. So, says here he left North officially in February. It feels a lot longer than that.
I don't know if they were even barely playing at that point in time, though, did they?
Well, how would you know? You'd have to watch North, wouldn't you?
But no, I've heard about the whole bunch of players in that position where they still think it's like, I can wait for the deal. Here's another thing they also do, Rich, which is so sad in 2021. This is real still. They just look at other players they think they're better than and go, well, I'm better than him, so I should get more salary. Business has never worked that way, ever in the world. No. Because, by the way, by that logic, there's some guy playing in second division of Brazilian football who should be getting paid more than some cunt in the Premiership. But he can't, can he? He doesn't have the brand, doesn't have the appeal. No one knows him yet. He hasn't proven him. There's a million factors we all know. Like, that's like how a child would think about the fucking game. But there's top pro players still think that to this day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I think it's quite telling. I mean, I don't think that roster that we just talked about, the Danish one, the ex-North trio reuniting, I don't think that's going to do anything. But it's quite telling. The
upside, like, dude, where's the in-game leader? That's the one thing you needed was fucking MSL for a team like that. Like, they've got nothing with that team.
No, but it's what I mean. It's like, so why? It's going to be. I think Gade's going to be doing it. So it's like,
why not? No one's going to watch it anyway. It's never going to happen, is it? So do whatever you want. Have fucking Jesus be the in-game leader if you want. Fuck it. Have Buddha as the fucking analyst. Yeah, sick, great. Under a light tree. Oh, everyone's won. Just kill them all then. Fucking.
I'd love having Jesus as an IGL. I'd be sick. But yeah, it is crazy that MSL can't even get in a team like that. And you start wondering, again, like if everyone's playing Moneyball and the Danes don't want to play with him, when's he going to get a shot? Like, I'm telling you, like, I'm noticing the theme as I'm going through all of this. It's orgs not spending money. It's orgs not spending money and players pricing themselves out of a market thinking they're going to get a second chance. That's not going to come rolling around. Everyone's essentially ending their careers early.
In my opinion, in this period where we're stuck online, if you don't have a team, I'm not joking, if any team who is known offers, you must take the offer. And you must play out your fucking skin. That's the only way to get back to a real big salary, in my opinion. Because like you're saying, mate, they're thinking it's like 3 years ago, and they can just sort of wait their time, and they'll get it like that. You just, like you're saying, you price yourself out of the market and it's done at that point. You barely had any teams anyway who were willing to sign you,
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, like, if the market's taking a downturn, but you're still running out. I mean, again, these agents have gassed players up ridiculous.
Oh, terribly.
And you're putting players in a position now where they are being told, get your worth. Great concept. But if you don't scale your worth appropriately for the market you're within, and you're asking for all this amount, you might get it. You might get an org to sign it. but you're expediting the org dropping the team or going under by getting more in the short term. Like, it's much better to get a sustainable salary for a decent length of time than to get an exorbitant one, and basically that's the reason the team dies. You've essentially sealed the limitation of your own career on that basis. And I'm hearing a lot of this right now. Like, these agents, a lot of them are like, they're coming in and treating it like it is football, and some of the salary demands I've heard lately are insane and not reflective of where the market's at right now at all.
This is why when I said that thing earlier, people will think, but that's the point of an agent, Thorin. They're supposed to take their fee. Yeah, for doing their job. But their job, by the way, is get me the best deal I can get, and then from that take their cut. It's not, by the way, to come and go shoot for the moon, and then if they fail with me, go, it's all right, I've got another player, I can sell you him instead. That's what these cunts do. If people don't know, I'll tell everyone a very, very, very quick version of a story, which is I fired my agents, who, by the way, worked for one of the biggest agencies in the world. Forget esports, the world.
Yeah.
And then the reason I fired them was exactly this behavior. They were taking what I would consider predatory behavior, where they would only shoot for deals that were like 20k a month sponsorship. And so say someone said, well, I have a 5k deal, they'd be like 10k or nothing. And they would just be making deals walk. And so there was a period of time where I had no sponsorships. And I had about 6 or 7 different companies were going like, why didn't you want to do a deal with us? And I was like, what are you talking about? I told them to get the deal done. And it was just this every time. Now, here's the problem with this, guys. This is why this exists. Because you know what? There were times when it worked and they signed the massive sponsor. But the problem is they just took that as like a cue to only ever go for their own greed, never factor in that, like, at that point in time, like, it's not like I can't do it, but I don't want to just go 6 months from no sponsor. I'd rather have a smaller one and work with them or something. But like, basically the agents in CS, as far as I can tell, they're doing that to the pros now. And as I say, we were already stretched as thin as you could possibly be stretched in fucking terms of salaries. Like, that was already at the limit of what people wanted to pay. So you add in this, and what it means now is a team who wants to play and a player who wants to play for the team don't get a deal done and nothing happens. And the agent sits there. And here's the other thing about agents, right? It's like lawyers in esports. Could you just stop fucking just the stench of your shit stinking breath coming across the room? Just keep your mouth shut. If you're a lawyer and an agent who does a good job and doesn't fuck people, just shut the fuck up. Because guess what? The second any of you tell me every few weeks via Twitter, apropos of nothing, that you're one of the good guys and you're not one of the ones doing this, that we need to get rid of the behavior, I just start thinking you're just telling me don't look at my right hand as you're taking some out of your pocket like a magician. How much more do you... Mate, people who legit don't have to sell that story every week. Like, the one agents that are doing that, it's like I get super suspicious when I see that. I just start waiting for the stories to come in, like the little ones in the back. Like, oh, I've heard a little bit. Like, I'll start listening to those people, mate, if you keep doing it, because I'm getting sick of it. They all want to be portrayed as heroes while they're just the scummiest people in the scene.
Yeah.
Certain cases obviously excluded. Shout out DK.
Yeah. Right then. So that's pretty much all of the news. I don't think I've missed anything. Have I missed anything? They're the big ones, I think.
Maybe, what about this then? To close the show, before we go to viewer questions, we're going to have a segment called Totally Unacceptable and Unprofessional CIS Hate, right? So a player, a lot of you might know from the CIS region, he's a very famous major winner and cheater called Senya. He actually, just totally unnecessary in a very abusive and disgusting manner, by the way, for someone who's not a pro player in CSGo right now, had the audacity in an interview with me, I think 2017, Reflections with Senya, to say that Blade had an outdated way of thinking about the game and that he still thought about the game, it was 2017 at the time, like it was 2007. So there's only 2 questions I have. One is either will Senya be selling the obvious amazing straight-to-video course for $19.99, which gets you up to 14 years of Counterstrike within a 4-year span that him and Blade obviously watched back-to-back while eating Heinz beans, or will he just maybe admit that he's a cunt who just said similar things himself a while back, but now has just changed his fair-weather fucking opinion to ride the hate train of a bunch of 14-year-old half-wits who should be playing Fortnite, but they don't have good enough PCs in Russia?
I like
that one. You like the unnecessary burn there about the PCs at the end. Get actually, mate, I've got a fucking sick PC. Yours is shit. Get at me. 38-year-old man gets you know what?
You are. 38-year-old man.
I can spend my own money on a PC. My PC is banging. You know what? I don't even play Counterstrike half the time. I just go on fucking Twitter. Suck that. You wish you had this PC. Keep playing on 40 FPS, you daft cunt. You and
Sounds-
Waro tested out those new executables, allegedly, maybe in a video game. I don't know, I think.
Right, so I mean, mate, fucking hell! I just announced I'm casting Rocket League tomorrow officially. So, mate,
I did like how cringe that fucking gif of you like.
Oh, you like that, did you? Literally just made that today. Like,
man, that was like some pure
mad.
fucking whatever partridge level shit. Like,
mate, that's definitely the kind of thing you would have done. I was literally channeling you.
I would,
We'll drop a horse mad like.
It was good.
No, because obviously I've had all the fucking 38-year-old man. We've had all that today, and he's blocked me. Why is he so sensitive? Says the person creating a Reddit thread about being blocked. Like it's so. I can't wait to do it as well because obviously I'm gonna just be real with the people.
Oh, you're not going to tell me
podcast.
Rocket League fans are mentally ill as well. They're all going to go mental or something.
Oh, no, that's already happened. I've already got a video about it called
right.
The Rocket League Community is Not Deranged. Look it up. So they're already trying to get me fired from a job, by the way, which, like, you can imagine Carlos and all the guys are like, yeah, we think your shit's hilarious. Like, definitely do it. Yeah, drop a hose mad. Yeah, have some fun with it.
By the way, those are my favourite people in esports. Most of them have anime Twitters where they don't know they're actually nobody in the game. They're a guy with like 100 followers. And they go, oh, well, you keep these, none of us want these bloody super famous entertaining world-class entertainers in our game, keep them out. It's like, you don't speak for anyone. You don't even, mate, you aren't even represented by something unique to you. You're represented by an anime picture. You speak for nothing.
Yeah, I know, right? So the thing is, though, I will just say this, like, obviously, I used to play Rocket League, but I ain't played it in ages. I think I played it when it came out. Me and Sam used to play it and that. And so obviously, I mean, like, you know, even though I've done a few Rocket League events, like, I don't really know what the fuck's going on. I'm just treating it like football with cars, me. Like, so remember, I'm doing the casting.
Right.
So I'm going to be working in loads of, like, classic football calls, football terminology, just triggering everyone. Why is he not talking about the specific, you know, speed boost technique and all this? There'll be none of that. I don't know.
Should only reference football players from 90s as well.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, of course, yeah. Lechkov! Screaming all the names. Like, that was like Hristo Stoichkov the way he meant that one in. Obviously, Orb, like, he's going to be going, what the fuck is this guy on about? Like, going to be doing it. Only Bulgarians, apparently. That's all I'm going to do. 90s Bulgarian footballers. But yeah, anyway, so I'm going to be dropping that. But yeah, man, I've had it all day already. People just going absolutely insane. And the best part was as well, like back when the Rocket League guys went mental at me the first time, which was literally over a Rocket League commentator, right?
Oh, I remember this. It was the guy who just like blocked you on Twitter. Wasn't this guy who...
He literally replied to me and said, when I worked at McDonald's, I dated a subordinate staff member and it never got in the way of our work.
Oh, I remember this guy. Yes.
I was like, right, okay.
Wasn't he also one of those ones?
It's still
like,
a conflict of interest.
Mate,
like.
Wasn't he also one of those ones where it's like he just kept referencing like every 2 weeks or something, just bringing it back up again? But you know, I was blocked Richard by this reason. Like, you just kept doing it over and over again.
It was like, you know, I kept trying to explain to him, like, okay, but like, so that's a great anecdote, really cool. Still a conflict of interest, though. Yeah. Still, and he just wouldn't shut up. So I blocked him, and then he's been moaning about that for fucking ages. So because of that, right, all these other like
is he like the most popular one or some fucking
no
he's
like that? Oh, right, no, mate, he's an absolute fucking bum. And then so like you have to understand, I mean, like the way the Rocket League kind of like talent pool essentially works is you have the god tier talent who, by the way, can hold their heads up high in like in any company. You know, there's a ton of them. Like, I mean, again, I'll be leaving people out, but you know, I've worked with Lawler. I think he's god tier. You know, Wave Punk, shout out to him. He just broke his arm recently, bless him. You know, there's some like fucking absolute like amazingly talented people, probably like Achilles as well. There's loads anyway. And they were that was the caliber of people we were working with on E-League, right? Then below that, you have guys like this guy. Well, I had sex with someone who takes orders from me, and it never affected our work. Yeah, it's McDonald's. It's hardly big business, mate. Like, maybe not fucking, you know, a quick knee trembler by the fucking dumpsters you're throwing out the fries is hardly anything to fucking talk about. And we're not in the same ballpark here, you silly cunt. And anyway, so then you have them, and they're dregs. I mean, they're not even talented. They're not even good at their job. And then you go down below that, and it is just absolute losers. Like, the tier 3 in Rocket League is like, it's like a guy with 50 followers who like just it happened again, like, you know, fucking going through puberty mid-game. And those guys are fucking livid because with the contract for this, I've just nailed more money than they'll see from their fucking summer job. You know what I mean? a day. And it's like, why don't I get a chance? It's absolutely brilliant. So I'm fucking loving it. Mad horse, mad, dollars raining from the sky. Let's get into the Patreon questions. Right, we've actually had a lot today, so let's try and rattle through them. Elon, you have unlimited resources and you can make one 30 for 30 quality documentary. Who would it be about? I'll start with you for this one.
I know we've answered similar questions before, so I'll try and come up with a fresh one because I always want it to be something like I've never done the angle from before. Sure. Like, here's the thing. Obviously, this is a hypothetical world. So, like, one of the big problems of those documentaries wouldn't actually be the money, by the way. It'd be getting people, like, for the really interesting topics, like getting people to say yes if it's about cheating or anything like that. It's going to be super hard to get those people on camera. But, like, one that I think would be amazing. You could never get this done, sadly. So I have to live in a world where, I don't know, people are compelled to say yes to do the project. Would just be about the player Xavier from Brood War, who was the one who infamously was banned for match fixing. Because if people don't know, there's this mega compelling aspect to the story, which never fully came out in the public because, unsurprisingly, the second there was even the hints of that behind the scenes, the Korean scene just like fucking like, you know, all the wagons just got pulled in and they just fucking, they refused to let any info out. And in fact, you can't even, I'm not joking, ask players in an interview about that guy. They'll just turn to you in the interview and say through the translator, like, please don't ask me about that question. I can't speak on it. So basically, if you could get everyone on camera, the reason why I think would be amazing is because I heard intimations basically that guy, even as a pro player for like the last year or something of his career, when his like results were going down and down and down, I heard he just wasn't playing the whole time. And that actually what makes this case amazing is it isn't just a guy who had it all as a pro player and then wasn't good in match fixed, and that's why. I've heard it's almost like joined, and it's more like he just had such hubris in the game, because in the game, by the way, he was like a genius player who could like overcome impossible odds and like redefine. I heard basically like he just sort of got a mania like that extended beyond the game. So as a result, of course, he thought to himself, well, why wouldn't I just do match fixing and manipulate the whole scene and get this person to throw a game because I can and no one will ever catch me because I am the genius who can just do it. Like, I heard he was on that sort of insane level, like supposedly, basically behind the scenes, even when his like official results were bad, I was told, no joke, he supposedly would like practice against the absolute best players like Flash and J-Dog and just tool them on like secondary accounts and stuff. Like, so it actually sounds like, as you can see here, I'd almost make like a fiction movie out of this. Like, it sounds like this is like could be an amazing guy where even if you did it with recreations, what a fucking mega compelling story you could tell, which notice almost has to have nothing to do with the StarCraft stuff in the game. So I think if you could get that access, that would be the key thing there, not the money, the access. That could be an incredible story to tell.
Yeah, I mean, like, as well, like, I remember at the time, because, I mean, there was a bunch of match fixing in StarCraft 2 as well that never really got addressed, and so, you know, I was, like, in that scene at the time and talking about it, but I talked to people who, you know, said they knew Xavier from back in the day and stuff, and yeah, he was the other kind of match fixer. He was the one who looked at all of the money that people had and all of the opulence that they could live in and thought, I'm the greatest fucking player of all time, why don't I have it all? Why haven't I got more? And so, you know, greed was the big motivator for him and ultimately his downfall. Whereas, you know, at the other end of match fixing, it's why have I got nothing?
Yes.
You know, so he's definitely the worst kind of match fixer, but equally as well, I mean, like, what a phenomenally talented player, right? Like, crazy to even think he would throw it all away like he did.
Because that's the one angle, by the way. I've always made this point a million times. I'll make it one more time for the people in CS, maybe who haven't heard it before. One of the weirdest angles ever. It's the same with if you ask why would someone cheat and they go, well, why would he do that? He has millions and already succeeded. Because they don't think they can get caught. These are people who think, I have all of this. Why don't I just have more as well? That's what they think. They want it all at once. They're supposed to believe every action the people commenting take, they do a cost-benefit analysis and they go, I'm willing to accept all the consequences of failure. No! None of you do that, but everyone else does it. It's just faking it. No one lives life that way. No one thinks they'll get caught. That's a rule of crime, by the way.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, why would almost any crime happen? Like, no one's going in thinking I'll get caught, you know. But yeah, for me, I mean, like, it's the obvious one, like, because it would just have, like, if I only got to do one, it would have to be CGS. It's such an insane story from start to finish.
It's still not even fully understood, is it? Like the scale of how nuts it. Like, if you know, for example, off the top of my head, they had like $50 million budget for 3 seasons, and the famous story is they spent $45 million on season 1, and half of it, by the way, was stuff you guys wouldn't even believe. This is like Enron levels of incompetence. Like in season 1, it was supposed to be like America and like small part of Europe, so they were like, you know what? Fuck it, just roll it out to the whole world. Like, and had everyone on salaries, like full-time yearly salaries, like $25K a year each. Like basically, it like the level of just like like financial incompetence, like actually staggers believe. Like that alone would make people watch. I guarantee they'd be amazed by the numbers.
But also as well, all the stuff behind the scenes where it was like, fucking let's have our opening tournament at the Playboy Mansion. Why? There's no point in doing that. But it's because obviously everyone wants to go to the Playboy Mansion and we got a bunch of money to blow. So you had stuff like that. There was a ton of other stuff. I mean, there's stories that said about CGS that have never come out or like barely known. Like how Linkin Park nearly got involved at the end, or all the drugs that were flying around. I mean, shit, man. Like, I've talked about this one more before. We ain't obviously never named names.
It's in LA, so you can probably start a hazard against guys.
Like literally someone opening a fucking suitcase like in a movie. It would just buy like how many grams do you want? Like, and mad. It was mental.
And then you were like, you've all got suitcases as well, right?
yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, you haven't any yet. Where's yours? No, but I mean, like, it was just a wild time, and there's like just a bunch of stories. Like, if everyone went on the record and was honest about it, and I think you should be, statute of limitations and all that shit way past. The story would blow people's mind because it's got everything. It's got sex, drugs, incompetence, VC money, ambition. It's not like it was a terrible idea. It was a potentially good idea, terribly executed.
Yes.
And then literally just how it ends, which is you just wake up one day and, like that fucking monorail guy from The Simpsons.
Oh, it was amazing, wasn't it?
Fucking gone. You're just like, what? The website's down and you've got an email. Yeah, you're fired. Sorry about that.
By the way, one thing I do legit love about scams in esports is that they also complete what in theory should only be in the movie. Like in real life, by the way, you don't want to scam someone and then make it obvious and disappear overnight because then they'll instantly look into it. What you normally do in real life is like, if anyone's ever looked into those, like, African email ones, they don't just instantly disappear. They string you along for as long as possible. Yeah. Sometimes they'll even do stuff like bizarrely, they give you a little bit of the money back and then they ask for more. Like, it's like they make it such an elongated scam that's part of why you can never catch them, basically. What I love about this one is it had that like exact aspect out of like a TV show where you go along the next day like, excuse me, can I come into CGS? And the guy's like, what do you mean? There never was a CGS here. Yeah. And then you're like, what? And then it's all just gone like overnight, literally. Even though, by the way, if you don't know, guys, we're talking about like an enormous production by like Fox Corp for like American TV. And they just shut all the website down. Don't even give you like a moratorium of a month, just shut it all down tomorrow. Yeah. It's so outrageously small time. It's almost what esports deserved. Like, we deserved after, like, listen, we'd only literally just left behind the Angel Munozes of the world. We deserved to just run straight into the arms of someone who absolutely just rinsed.
Mate, it was like, it literally was. So I think that would be a good one, and that's the one I want to do. So anyway, Carv asks, everyone is well aware of the condition Stockholm syndrome, where hostages form an unhealthy bond with their captors. Yeah. But is there a term coined for the weird phenomenon where promising Danish CSGo talent suddenly are reported missing right around the time of Astralis contract renewals, only to wash up months later in the wilderness once the quarterly financials are reported?
Copenhagen condition, maybe?
Yeah, he says, what is BTN's official position on Copenhagen syndrome? It's definitely a real thing, Carv, mate. I mean,
for sure.
Seems to be we're the only people that are wise to the game, though, so...
It's because the secret that they've done. This is the part that I always thought was by the by, but I've realised now there was genius in it. I didn't understand, Richard. By getting real sports figures from Denmark and political figures involved, what they've done with Astralis that no other org has, even North doesn't fully have this, is they've given them like a social cachet. That means that now they've tied in, you're not just playing for the best team, which is what I would think of if I was a pro player, with like, if I play for Astralis, then my parents will accept me and they will understand I've succeeded. Like, so as a result, like, you actually can't beat that marketing. Like, I often compare it to like Elon Musk and stuff. It doesn't matter how many things you could reveal 1 billion facts about Elon Musk to show he's corrupt. People don't like him because of that. They like him because of like his charisma, marketing, what he seems to represent. So Astralis has done a killer job in that regard. I'm not surprised everyone just falls for it, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're just shouting at the moon, aren't we? Like, people don't pay any attention. It's whatever. Like, I'm over it personally. Like, these are all minor things that basically have contributed to the death of Counterstrike CSGo, and people are gonna look back and we'll be right again. Being right, I would have rather we still had a scene
for sure.
I would still rather have had a scene than what's actually panning out. So Whatever. Anyway, appreciate it, Carv, as always. Res Chi, if you could bankrupt any company or org,
This might be a follow-up to the same
Yeah.
question, was it? Was that?
who would it be?
Here's the thing, Richard. The problem is this. There's so many orgs that I want to bankrupt. So you know what? Like, I probably would just say Astralis, just because here's the thing, right? The other ones I'm bankrupting, to help the scene.
I don't think you need to do that.
Listen,
I think they'll do it.
I know, to be fair, they probably will. Like, I'll just do Astralis just for one reason only, just for personal reasons. Just to be like, I'd put it this way, I would literally unblock Nickel and Iom and send him a DM like 5 minutes before. Like, I'd say so. I'd try and make it fun. Like, you know what? Maybe things can work out, and then I just bankrupt them 5 minutes later. Like, I would love to do that. I can't lie. That would be incredible.
For me, I think I'd probably do one of the big games devs. So
Riot, surely, just for all time's sake.
You say that, but Activision Blizzard are definitely the bigger evil right now.
Yeah, but they're taking care of their own games, so
yeah, true.
The problem with Riot is they do somehow succeed, and that's the most annoying thing of all that they do, Richard, for you, quite frankly.
The problem with that is as well, like, to bankrupt Riot, like you saw.
Well, the good news is this: if you bankrupt Riot, you also do in a very minor way strike a blow at China.
Yeah, strike a blow at Tencent. Yeah. But I don't know, mate. It's tough. It's tough. But it'd be great if there was functionally a way to bankrupt Riot. Because what it'd be great would be to see all of the cunts who were still in Riot all just weeping. All just weeping. I mean, the problem is all the people I had beef with have left and then sort of have subsequently reached out and gone, yeah, I was in a mad cult and I was acting like an arsehole. I'm definitely not an arsehole now and I'm definitely out of the cult. So
I'll definitely never go on record either, so...
Yeah. And I'll definitely never acknowledge any of this publicly, yeah.
That's why I always joke it is like Scientology, mate, because the worst part is the fact that even when they leave, they don't speak.
Yeah.
That's the part I can't handle.
Yeah, so, but yeah, you're right. I mean... That was the first time somebody really, really big. I'm not talking about like a esports org, which fuck them. I've been blacklisted by more orgs than I've had hot dinners probably. But that was the first time like a major power player. Well, I suppose actually not the first. Does ESL probably count? But it was. I mean, for me, it was like this was a big deal that there were staff members at Riot that had policies specifically around Richard Lewis. Just based on my reporting about them, because they identified very quickly this guy has ins with us because, I'm endemic to the space. They were hiring my mates and not even knowing they were hiring my mates. And they were like, and then not only that, they were pissing people off internally, and people, most surefire way to ever get leaks is just treat your employees like shit, by the way. It's like, again, shouldn't be rocket science. But, so I was hearing stuff that they were doing right at the start. And then, where the penny dropped for me, what they were, was at that ESL, it was a Cologne event. It was one of the very first ones. It was the first time I met Ocelot as well, actually, funnily enough. He was playing for SK. He did a wicked Baron steal, and I watched it, and I thought, yeah, this is all right, I can get into this as an esport. And then we had an after party, and all the press got to go. And even though it was ESL's after party, it was like 50% of the people there were from Riot and all wearing red. They were in uniform. Like, I've never seen anything as sad as this. They were all in Riot red T-shirts, right? And all of them were just arseholes. They were just so mad aggressive, elbowing people out the way, like saying, we're at Riot, this is our after party. And I was like, even saying to ESL employees, it's not their after party though, is it? It's like, it's yours. You're running it. And they're going, yeah, but, Riot, you don't fuck with Riot. And I'm thinking, why don't you fuck with Riot? These people are being absolute rude cunts. So I knew straight away what they were. And then, the rest of that, they're, fucking is history, I guess. So, yeah, it would have to be them. Barkin says, since I have to watch kids' TV all day, every day, I think I've lost a little passion for life. Okay. I'm guessing he's just had a kid. He's just obviously be a blow to the head, one of the two. Is there any song or genre of any medium you vehemently detest?
Oh, because his is that he doesn't like kids' TV. Right?
Yeah.
See, by the way, I'll tell you the hack right now, and I know because I was a kid and I was trying not to watch all the boring shit. The hack is this: you need to find either like, go old school, so go to like Viking myths and Greek myths, because those are straight fire for any
And kids love them.
Yeah, and they're super interesting when you're a kid. By the way, that's like Superman or something when you read it. Or the other angle is you look for something. It's basically what made like the comics that when I was a kid, fucking straight fire. Is you find it where the guy who's the comic book writer, he didn't really want to be a comic book writer. That's like sublimated genius that should have been like a musician, fucking great American novel writer, but he just couldn't do that, and so he sublimated it into comics, but probably made some amazing comics. So there are ways around that if you're into that shit. So, but what I would say is if there's like one, did he say genre or what else was it?
Genre, song or genre. So in other words, it can be one specific song.
I would just say in general, any of the shit where people are just screaming when they're singing. Like there are certainly some metal bands that I like, but that's one thing where like by default it puts me off. Like I find that to be actual shit, that style of singing generally.
Yeah. For me, I would just, I mean, again, if I could like Thanos it out of existence, K-pop, unquestionably.
There's almost no good side to it. It's just corporate cancer, basically. It's a disgrace.
I mean, yeah, when you even like when you start looking at how that industry works and how it treats the people within it, and then how that filters down. I mean, there was someone streaming the other day who was like from K-pop and signed like one of them idols things, and like made a joke saying that this person was my sugar daddy. And then had to like publicly apologize for that because the fans were outraged. Like every time someone dies, you know, Stan Luna, you know, all of, you know, every time someone wants, and that's the tea with just some random.
Oh, that's the dumbest fans.
Random, yeah. I mean, these people, like, put it this way: I work in esports. I'm no stranger to dumb fandoms. I've never seen, like I say, it should be in the fucking handbook for mental illness. Like, if you like K-pop, if you listen to K-pop, if you follow K-pop culture, you probably should get some treatment. Almost more than any other stupid subculture on the internet. It's absolutely ridiculous. And again, you have to know it, because if you proudly embrace the idea of being a stan, i.e. a mentally deranged fan that's willing to destroy the lives of anyone who isn't a fan of the same thing you are, and if you embrace that, yes, I feel comfortable labeling you very mentally ill, very mentally disturbed, and they all seem to do it. And anyone who ever speaks out about it just gets absolutely berated and abused, and they try and hack them and get them off the internet, get them cancelled, you know, whatever. Like, fuck you people. So, yeah, K-pop for sure. It's also shit to just listen to as well. I mean, like, you know,
it's
if
also
the music...
most cynically designed music of all time. It may as well be algorithms at this point in time, literally.
Yeah, totally. Alice asks, for all three of you, so Sam's included, is there any record you guys feel you could achieve that would put you in the Guinness Book of World Records, assuming you guys would be interested in doing so?
If anyone's not familiar, because I know for Americans it's not as famous a thing, like whereas in Britain we had all sorts of bollocks TV shows where it was like this doing records. Like most of the records in those books, by the way, aren't the cool ones, like 100 meters world records. It's just some shit like who can stack 700 fucking cigar boxes end to end and balance them on their nose for 4.5 minutes. Like, so basically, we can actually be mad creative with this. Like, I'll give you an obvious example. Like, say someone could eat like 10 kebabs in a row. That might get you in that might get you in the fucking book. You know,
I'm not. Yeah, but I wouldn't.
Is there a record? Smoke the most amount of weed without dying? Because if so, I'm in the running.
Sam's got you beat.
He'll be close, put that way.
Sam would take that. I mean, so first of all, I was in the Guinness Book of Records. I was part of.
Was it the largest crowd or whatever?
Yeah. So. First of all, I am pretty sure I played on a rugby team that was in there briefly for like the biggest. It was the biggest loss in like a professional rugby tournament.
Well, how much did you lose by? Like 60 points or something mental?
You fucking wish me. It was like 100. It was like 100. It was like 142-0 or something. So we played in a Welsh Cup, right? And we'd been put in by virtue of being the oldest team in Wales. That's like, so we used to get free tickets to the Millennium Millennium Stadium, watch all the games, got to meet the players and that, And so we got entered into some fucking cup, which was it's like the Welsh Rugby Cup. And so I can't even remember, it was that long ago. But anyway, all I knew was, Rich, we have to get on a bus and we're off to play Pontypridd. And I was like, which team? And they were like, well, it's like their 7th team now. They're still a professional side. So when we got there, I was thinking, all right, playing against the 7th team on a roster, there were 2 people who were in the South African World Cup rugby squad in their 7th team. They'd been away training with South Africa. So we got absolutely fucking destroyed. It was ridiculous. I had some, literally there was some giant, he was 6'8", giant man, just 320 pounds of solid muscle. Just remember him absolutely battering me. And when I say we lost 140 points or something, the ref blew 10 minutes early. Just said lads. It
was 10 minutes early.
Yeah. It was real bad. It was real bad. So I'm pretty sure that was. Someone could probably find it on the internet. But yeah, and then I think it's been overtaken by there was some I don't know, some other teams beating that record now. But it was that. Then there was we did what the kids call flash mobs or whatever. Where everyone. So I was in one
dances
Yeah, so I was in but it was to promote a mobile game. So it was when we worked in the we did the Gadget Show, that TV show that used to be on Channel 5, and we did Heaven Media, the company I used to run for, did the Gadget Show Live. It was called. It was a road show, and it would do all the tech, and we basically hosted that and booked the events. That's where I met Total Biscuit for the first time. That's where I met John, because we hired him to do the StarCraft tournament. I met KSI before he had the trouble. And then and so anyway, we did some mobile game company had set it up, so there was Guinness Book of World Representatives there, and we did the largest flash mob or whatever, where we were playing a game while dancing or doing something stupid, and I got roped in to do it because I worked for the company. So even though it's not my name, I was part of that nightmare. But if I could break any record I wanted, I don't know. I don't even know who gives a fuck.
What everyone does is they just combine 2 records, don't they? So I can't eat hot dogs the fastest, and I can't juggle the fastest, but I can eat some hot dogs while I'm juggling. Now I'm the fastest hot dog eating juggler.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't know. I've never thought about because no one cares about Guinness Book, because they let too many stupid. There used to be good records. There used to be good records. It was world's fastest man. You've thrown a javelin hella far. Then it started getting a little bit silly. Didn't I know this sounds mental, right? But I remember reading Mr. T's biography, which was I think it's called "Be Somebody" or "Be Somebody's Fool."
Should have been called "That's the T."
Yeah, it would have been perfect now. But he was in the Guinness Book of Records. I think he got in the 80s for obviously a highly controversial dwarf tossing, if you know about that. Where you literally throw a man, a little person, you throw them as far as you can, and that was a thing. And then so it started getting a bit mad after. I mean, by the way, you got to pity him. So who's throwing me this week? Yeah, it's Mr. T, only one of the strongest men who's ever absolute machine. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks. But yeah, so they started letting all these daft records in, and then you're what? Now it's you say, what, fucking balancing fucking cigar boxes on me penis and stuff like that. Nah, it's all bollocks now. I don't care. It died with Norris McWhirter for me. So there you go. Watch Doge for all the lads. Again, 3. If you could transition into broadcasting journalism, I'd love to transition into it, mate. Yeah. Can't wait until.
I'm thinking of giving that journalism a bit of a whirl.
Yeah. One day I might try it. In any traditional sport, okay, there's the next bit. Which would it be? Personally, I think the 3 of you would make all those twat F1 journals shit their britches. I mean, I couldn't do Formula 1. I fucking hate Formula 1. It's cars going round in circles.
I've never been a fan myself.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be.
Tell you what, someone in the chat, darts, mate. I tell you what, the new darts commentators they use nowadays are shit, mate.
Are they pussies?
Whatever that is, I'm coming for that job. I'll take that off you easy. There's no hype, mate. It's boring as fuck. They don't care. We need boomers casting darts, to be honest. They've got a 20-year-old kid doing it. It's just boring, mate. So I can take that job tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I've seen how into darts you get as well, mate. It's not fake. You do love darts.
Passion, mate. You got to be passionate.
Oh, yeah. He's really into that, mate. Like, no joke.
I think the obvious one for me would just be basketball with the NBA, because what I like about it as a game is the fact that there are only 5 starters on the team makes it manageable to learn the space, you know, without being somebody who's done it for 40 years. So in like 10, 20 years, you can get pretty in depth. Whereas like the problem is, I actually feel like the most meaningful analysis, stuff that could actually change the world, would be in the NFL. But I also think it would be the most unpopular analysis. And so like, I don't think there's actually any market there. Like, but it is so what I've realized, sadly, is I guarantee you, right? This is just pure speculation. I've never met these people, but I'm telling you, this is my read. If I really met the people who do the on-camera analysis for NFL, they would tell me. Of course, I don't really believe that, you know, like the quarterback who wins the game was the better player, or I don't really believe, you know, they would just tell me. But that's just the way that people in America, you know, the most pleb level, like guy in a bar, that's the level they want to talk about the game at. So I feel like you could do the most meaningful work in that game, but I don't think it'd be wanted. Whereas, like, I think the NBA is a good enough mix of like people know the basics of the game and aren't usually too ridiculously far off, with you could still do some really good interesting analysis. The last one obviously is like MMA or UFC. The only problem I'd have with that is, even though I do enjoy the sport very much, I feel like that is an example of a sport where, unlike the other ones, if you've never actually done it, you are always on some level going to be talking out your ass. Because here's the problem, right? In basketball, I can learn like a complicated defensive scheme over time, right? I can never actually understand how painful a leg kick is to the back of the calf. And because you can't really understand that, there's a level in like MMA where you'd always have a very hard time being like the ultimate expert, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I think as well for the investigative side of things, it's like it's a real hard sell, because it's like, first of all, so much is an open secret, but no one reports it in MMA. And, you know, and when you look at how Dana White, you know, and the UFC have historically treated journalists, it's not good. When you consider Ariel Helwani's been fucking banned how many times?
A couple of times at least, 2 or 3 at least.
You know, and has been publicly called out for leaking, you know, like signing Brock Lesnar or whatever the fuck it was, and, you know, being banned from events because of that. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And, you know, he's a good guy that brings so much to the sport and so much what he does. So you can imagine, I'd be a fucking nightmare. I'd be leaking everything. I'd be saying, oh, this cunt's on steroids. He's going to pop after the fight. He's doing this. He's doing that. They wouldn't let me anywhere near it. So it couldn't be MMA, because it would be like massively impractical. Not to mention as well, with all the financial impropriety that goes over in that world.
In that one, yeah.
And you know, it's like, for example, I remember reading an article from like a supposedly respected journalist in the space. You know, basically, I can't remember who it was, but it might have been published on ESPN, but it was big. It was of that size, you know. I'll have to find it. But it was basically, it was a journalist saying why the Reebok sponsorship is good, even though it fucked over loads of fighters. Yeah, you know, and I'm like, if this is the level that the journalists over here are operating on, like, you wouldn't want to be a part of that.
It's the worst Emperor's No Clothes scene I've ever seen, Matt. Like, I'll give you an obvious example. One thing that actually degraded a little bit of my respect for Joe Rogan over the years was that he had no problem with the champion of a different organization potentially being on steroids, and he never, ever believed, until they popped, that any UFC champion was ever on steroids, ever. Even though, by the way, if you look back now, it seems pretty clear that, like, all of them were. Like, Anderson Silva, GSP probably. Like, but it's if they weren't, they were an extremely unusual character. So that's one of those areas where, like, you can't have that be an open secret and never even address it. Like, mate, Joe, I'm not even talking about on the broadcast, Holby. You can't even reference on your podcast. Like, to you, Alistair Overeem only takes steroids until he signs with the UFC. Like, that's pathetic, mate. Like there's certain things. That's where you and me, I almost feel like, also wouldn't be able to survive in these industries. Because I wouldn't be able to survive a million podcasts without just saying that at some point in time. Like, this motherfucker's obviously cheating. Like, come on.
Yeah, and it's the thing. It's like, you know, you've either got an opinion on it. Like, I mean, for me, I'll be honest with you. I think what these guys do, it's like a feat of the human body.
Yes.
And I think there's like this weird fucked up negativity around steroids, which after all were designed for therapeutical purposes.
Of course.
You know, there's a huge misconception about what steroids are in the eyes of the average person, because of the, you know, they focus on the side effects, and they know that it makes you have big muscles. Some of them do, you know. Nobody really talks about what they were designed for, what the history was, how they ended up getting banned historically. And there's interesting stuff out there. There's a debate to be had. For me, I'd just let motherfuckers juice. I think that solves the problem. Like, find a better system that works for you. You take the risks. Your body, you go in, you fight. Everyone can do it. You know, like they did in Pride. You know, I mean, they literally said, we will not ban. They didn't say take the drugs. They just said, we won't ban you for taking the drugs. And at that point, it's fucking game on. So why not let people do it? So, I mean, it's not that I'm even against it as a principle, but yeah, that industry would be a nightmare. I think for me, the one I would probably be interested in, I think would be, you know, it would probably have to be the NFL. I think right now in the NFL, I think they are lacking a kind of like iconoclastic, you know, person that's going to take over, like when Skip Bayless stops or Cowherd stops talking about it. They're like the last of the great sports shock jocks, basically. And I don't see anyone waiting in the wings to replace them. Like, even the people they do their podcasts with are like vanilla by comparison.
Yes.
And there's so much fucked up in the NFL and so much that goes on and so much like mismanagement, players treated like shit. It'd be nice to be a voice for that, but I think, like you say, you know, unfortunately, the problem you've got is they're going to pigeonhole you right from the start, and they expect you to disseminate the information in a certain way. You wouldn't get on a big network; it would have to be something like underground.
Of course, yes.
You know, so.
It'd have to be some Barstool shit, of course.
Yeah, well, yeah, they could just work for Barstool. Goody Woody. What would be the best series or matches to go back and watch that happened during this online era? I've been away from home for most of it, so I haven't been able to watch anything. Also, thanks for the great content over the years. Happy to finally be able to support it. So, well, thanks for supporting it.
I mean, I remember one that I even referenced before was that one where it was like Simple went ham for 3 maps, then Zeewood went ham for 2 maps. It was the one where it was the IEM Beijing Haidan EU one where it was Marvi versus Vitality. Basically, it's just the 2 best players in the world just going ham right at the time when everyone's thinking about who's going to be number 1. So it's almost perfect like TV in that sense.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Man, it's like hard on the spot. There've definitely been some good ones. What was that one? Didn't we have like some mad best of 5 final and it went all the maps and they were all mad close and they were OTs? I remember talking about it, saying it was probably the best series.
Let me think.
But I think it happened at the end of 2020.
Let's have a look. I'll have a quick look.
It must be one of the Intel Extreme Masters if it's a best of 5, right?
Yeah, in theory, they're the ones who do the main best of 5s. Let's have a look.
Yeah, was Astralis Navi? Maybe that rings a bell.
I'm not seeing one for a best of 5, though. That's the thing. Oh, no, wait. They had actually the Pro League Finals was a 5-mapper. So maybe it was that one. That was when they had Esatag and that in the lineup.
Yeah, maybe.
Could have been that one. Yeah, it was a 5-map fight. Well, 4, because you play like 1-0. Yeah, every single map. Put it this way, it was like, obviously, the opponent got to double digits on every map. So that looks like a pretty good one.
Yeah, I think that's a one to check out for sure. So hope that helps, and thanks for the support. Reykjavik on Steam, I see your question, but people like that want attention, mate, and I'm never saying his name on one of my shows because he's a grifter and he wants to be inserted into the scene so he can grift. So like a tumor, you just cut off the supply and it dies. So you can double up next time. First sock. What is Astralis' most memorable playoff series at a major?
It's got to be the final of the first one they won, surely.
Yeah,
Virtus
I think
Pro.
so.
That's
Yeah,
fucking straight. There's a straight fire game for you as well, boys. If you can try, I mean, you're going to know that Astralis won, but you don't need to know anything else. Just watch it from the beginning. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah, it's got to be that. I mean, because what makes that incredible is as well as like when they were on the ropes, like Glaive just like make some insane balls out call where they just like literally run.
That was some movie level
right,
shit.
Yeah,
like that was unbelievable. Final.
Yeah, that. Yeah, I mean, and like you know, I know people said at home the atmosphere didn't necessarily translate, but it
in the venue it was banging.
It was banging, wasn't it? Yeah, you know. So
that's the irony of esports. Are you ready, guys? I'm going to blow your motherfucking minds right now. That Fox Theatre, I believe, held about 7,000 people. When ESL does that venue in Spodek, I think that holds about 8,000 people. Guess what? When one's just all sat in normal theatre chairs, by the way, way higher quality than the dog shit Spodek Arena. When that happens, you all go, not a big event, is it? But when they put the fisheye lens and Carmack goes, I can't believe that Poland, come bring a Polish guy out. I can't believe in Poland again. And then you all go, it's incredible the days we've lived to see. I can't believe I've lived too young to see Caesar, not old enough to live with Elon on Mars, but I got to see Carmack crying. Like, you're all just fucking play. You all are just marks. This is basically like straight fire reference. Pete and the Dragon, and you're just getting sucked by that fucking guy with the fucking, what was it, like the fake elixir that makes you healed or whatever the fuck. Straight fire reference.
Yeah, another one from back in the old Puma days. Put that next to Buck Rogers. Yeah,
there you go.
Chingu.
Piano.
Yeah. Head fully edited out.
That is a better name than their actual name, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, it should be, mate. But anyway, if game companies were competent in making remakes and remasters, which game from your childhood would I like to see get remastered?
Oh, going like single player here. Okay, that could be good. There's a lot of good ones.
I've lived long enough now to see all of my favourite games get remade and remastered, all the stuff I played. I used to be a big turn-based strategy nut when I was a kid. And so Chaos is the greatest game ever made, 1984, by the master, Julian Gollop. That got remade by Julian Gollop. It's not as good. It's on Steam. Chaos Reborn, it's called. It'll never have the pizzazz of the original. Obviously, UFO, before it was UFO Enemy Unknown, before it was called XCOM, which was the second gen. That got remade, remastered, and I would even go as far as to say by XCOM 2, it's actually been improved upon. I mean, there's loads of great stuff there. That's an example of a remake or a remaster done right. And then they did do a high level one of the Lords of Midnight / Doomdark's Revenge. Double up, they were good. Bard's Tale got a complete overhaul as well. I mean, these were the games I played as a kid. So,
is remastered supposed to be just where they like update the graphics, or are you supposed to actually like rehaul the whole game and make it different?
So a remaster is where they do the graphics, but essentially it stays the same,
right.
Like at its core. You don't like fuck with the end or anything. A remake is obviously you rebuild it from the ground up. You know?
All right, then I've got one. So one of the classics I always thought that's now sadly forgotten is the original Thief. I thought that game was fucking fire. So if you did that with really good graphics, because imagine how atmospheric it could be. Because that's a game, by the way, where you're hiding in the shadows. It's like a flicker of light. You could make that like that. Obviously, the graphics from that look like Quake, basically. It's like we're talking like 96 or something in the fucking PC era.
Very timely suggestion. You should.
It would look amazing now.
I don't know if you ever watched that Mandalore Gaming, the YouTuber.
No.
Where he's done
that shit like.
Well, so he did 3 videos breaking down all of the Thief games.
All right.
You should check it out. You probably like it. You know, there was loads of stuff I'd forgot because obviously I played it when it came out. IDOS was like the sign of quality. Like you would get their games all the time. They did the Championship Manager series, you know. So ran out, and I think they even did some of the early heroes of like Might and Magic, which were fucking straight fire as well. So went out and got those straight away. And I love Thief, but it's another one of those ones where it would get remade now by a studio, would do it all like. You know what I mean? Like, people wouldn't understand what made it good was the fact it was innovative and different, and you would have to do something innovative and different. Stealth games have been done to death. In fact, Thief's dubious legacy, unfortunately, is that it did lead to the stealth game as a genre, which there's so many bad stealth games.
Oh, of course.
So many. Some great ones that, take stealth elements. The original Hitman series, obviously, is one. The original Splinter Cells. But yeah, Thief, I think, if it was done right, like, for sure, that'd be sick. Deus Ex as well. Okay. Last question. The Legend Jerky's Minion. When this lockdown is over, I'm taking you, Sam and Duncan boozing. Where is it going to be? We have a choice between Cologne, Amsterdam, or Ghent.
Why does he put Ghent? Is there something about Ghent I'm not getting it? What's the reference to Ghent?
I think it's just because he's Belgian, I guess. So.
Yeah. Oh, right. I forgot about that. I was going to say, what the fuck? Who gives a fuck about Ghent? Thing is, of these three, listen, to be fair, I've never been against, so maybe Ghent's beautiful, but listen, Cologne has some things that are good about it. It's not where I'd go boozing. Like, Amsterdam surely kills it for that bit.
I mean, yeah, I've never been to Ghent, so I don't know if it is a sick place to go out. I mean, I've been out in Belgium and had some good nights. I've been to a fair few places, but I've never been to Ghent, funnily enough. I mean, which is crazy because it's a tiny country. I've probably been through Ghent and not noticed. But I mean, and also what's happening in Amsterdam these days? Like, what happened with De Vallen? Is that all still there? Because last time I was thinking about going to Amsterdam. Remember, I've been living in America all this time, so it weren't even like an option, There was, wasn't it like you had to get these dirtbag tourist cards? They were proposing that.
They were claiming that, but that was one of those ones. Basically, people don't know. It turns out they even do it on like a low level in Europe. They do that approach where they'll put a story out in the public just to like test what people's response is. And then if there's a pushback, they just don't do it, basically. Because they've had that story like recurring for like the last 10 years, I've noticed. But they haven't done anything close to that as far as I can tell.
And y'all still eating truffles out there?
You can buy the truffles, yeah. In fact, some shops even again say magic mushrooms. That even makes me wonder if they're like sort of going to repeal that like ruling or whatever, because some of them sell them as if they were mushrooms, even though technically that's what you're not supposed to be allowed to sell. So as far as I know, they should have it all still, yeah. The problem is that you are correct, actually. I have no idea what businesses will close because we won't actually know that till people open up again, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, there's loads more to Amsterdam than the red light district, but I've been going to Amsterdam since the fucking 90s. I've been watching football games in Amsterdam, you know, so for years. So, you know, the idea that, like, if it opens and the red light district isn't there anymore, you know, whatever. So, but I'll tell you what, tentatively pencil in Amsterdam. Soon as all these vaccines kick in and the virus has gone away and it all goes back normal, I'll be getting fucking lashed up 24/7 like you've never seen. I'll be fucking sleeping in the gutter like the good old days. Fucking just going straight to the bar, going to a Wetherspoons, having a fry up for £2, and then getting straight back on the lash like I was fucking 19 years old. Because I have been choking for a fucking pint in a pub like you wouldn't believe, mate. Like you wouldn't believe. The idea of a cold, frosty pint being poured and handed to me is like nectar from the fucking gods. So, yeah, I cannot wait. So I'll definitely take you up on it. And with that said, let's end the show. Thanks, obviously, to the sponsors. NordVPN, go to nordvpn.com/RLS to get 70% off. As well, you can go to .com. Make sure you have an account over there if you want to place some bets on some esports events. Definitely do that. And shout out to all our patrons, our $100 patrons: Jerky's Minion, Benedict, Zarathenia, Cathal, Flacksmith, J-Dubs, Hannah Maru, Alice, Tobias Burner, Scorny, Carve, and Marcus Kyumpa. And our $50 patrons: A. Rammer, Norwegian Clamai, Barkin, Goody Woody, Gerhan Kaya, Lonnie, Fursock, Alon, Echo, Rez, Miss Alcoholic, BP420, Watch Doge, Rekovic on Steam, Manuel Stockley, Benakagi, Alexi, and Sard Sawar. Hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure you take care of yourselves, and we'll see you in about a week. Peace.